Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tom Dabertin, and it's the Morning Call Friday edition on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. And it's great to be here with you this morning on a cold Friday morning in December. But you know what? It doesn't look too bad next week. Looks like we're going to get into the 40s. We'll do weather in just a second. But great to be with you. We'll be here until 9 o'clock, so look forward to taking your calls this morning. 845-1100 is the number to call. Let's talk about traffic. Traffic actually looks pretty good right now. We're in good shape. Northwest Indiana, the toll road, 8094, I-65, Klein Avenue, all look good. Little slowdown on the Indiana toll road at the toll barrier in Portage, but that's expected. Going across the line in Illinois, we're in really good shape as well. Right now, 294, the Ryan, Bishop Ford, Lakeshore Drive, Eisenhower, Kennedy, and Stevenson all look really, really good. So let's hope that you get out there early and get home early today, because, as I said before, it is cold out there, and with the weather is none other than Joe. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so today, it's going to be a high of 22, and it's going to be pretty cold all day. You're going to get snow it says until 8 a.m. I was just outside 30 seconds ago, and it's not snowing, but there was like a light layer when I got out of my home this morning. So expect maybe some sprinkles for the rest of for part of this morning. And then for Saturday is going to be a high of 13 and a low of -2. And then we're going to have about an inch of snow come throughout the day from 8 a.m. through 6 p.m. So it's not really like you're going to feel it or anything like that. It's just going to be a light drizzle. And then to round out your weekend on Sunday, it's going to be a high of 11, the 1-1, my favorite number. And it is going to be bitterly cold, but there's going to be some sunshine. But you're going to have some winds as well. So try and keep yourselves warm. I always say that wind is, the worst part of any weather. That's what makes cold weather cold. Is wind.
Yeah, absolutely. And take a look. If you look at the extended forecast, though, by next Wednesday and Thursday, they have us in the 40s. So this cold this weekend, it's going to be a good time to sit inside, get caught up on movies. Unfortunately, not a lot of football going on, although the Army-Navy game's tomorrow.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of basketball. There's plenty of other stuff to watch. So get caught up on some old movies, maybe some holiday shows. So it'll be a good weekend to stay inside.
One crazy thing, I'm actually looking, kind of farther down. But by Christmas, it's literally, it's going to be 40 on Christmas, and it's going to be 47 2 days before. I just find that kind of crazy how we always manage to just be cold and have a lot of snow, and then as soon as Christmas comes around, the white Christmas just goes away.
Yes, however, if I put things in perspective, let me give you the weather report from Pompano Beach, Florida. Mm-hmm. It's the same report every single day. A low of 68 and a high of 80. That's the weather down there. So, 40 sounds good. 80 sounds better. But that'll come sometime in January for me. So 845-1100 is the number to call. Obviously, the biggest news of the day is that redistricting failed in the state of Indiana. And it looks to me like there wasn't a senator from Northwest Indiana that voted for it on either side of the aisle. So I'd like to hear what you have to say about redistricting. Again, it went down in flames yesterday, and there's lots of other news, but we've already got callers, so let's get to those callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Mike. How are you?
Okay,
Did you get that number that I sent you, by the way?
Yeah, I got everything taken care of. That person,
Good.
He called me and he goes, I don't know what you did, but boy, they were over the house within a couple hours.
Good.
That yesterday. So enough on that one. But you know what persons they're celebrating today? 100 years.
Who's that?
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and Mary Poppins. Dick Van Dyke.
Dick Van Dyke is 100 years old today. Yeah, and you know what?
Yeah.
He looks pretty darn good. I saw 2 years ago where he went to a breakfast restaurant somewhere in the Hollywood area and just started singing. He got up and sang, and he still has it. Pretty amazing. 100 years old and doing well. Doing well.
Yeah, it's like my three old on right close to holidays, or I don't know. Mary Poppins was on a couple weeks ago, but my three movies that I always still like to watch all this day since I've always grown up was like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Mary Poppins, and then Wizard of Oz.
Oh, Wizard of Oz is a great movie, absolutely. Although
yes,
none of those resonate with me for Christmas. They're great movies. Don't get me wrong. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang to a point because they have the toy maker
right
character, but Wizard of Oz always kind of reminds me of the Easter season because that's when they used to show it on television. And Mary Poppins, you're right, is just good any time of the year. So great movies, great movies.
A month before Thanksgiving, I went to grocery stores. I won't say where. And 3 cans of items that people use for Thanksgiving. I wrote the prices down, okay, on my thing. I keep a record of it. I went 1 week before Thanksgiving. This is what I love about grocery stores and all these big people that have money, okay? I wrote the prices down. A week before Thanksgiving, they jack the prices up of those 3 cans and say, on sale, and then they drop it. They give you this discount. Just like now, I saw through Gary, Indiana, I saw some gas at $2.39 a gallon and like $2.65 here. Let's see how greedy the refinery and the gas refineries are going to be during Christmas. Are we going to still stay that low, or are they going to jack it up over $3 for the holidays?
Part of the price is based on demand. However, as I understand from an article that I read earlier this week, there is truly a large surplus right now in the system. So I don't think you're going to see them jack the price up very much. They might increase it by 10 cents just to be greedy before the holidays, but I think you're going to see it stay down. And to be very honest with you, the article that I read, which by the way was from the New York Times, so no fan of Donald Trump, but they were saying that the price of gas could actually hit about $2 a gallon by sometime in the early spring. So they're saying everything is going in the right direction on the price of oil right now. But it can change. It can change very quickly. It's all based on speculation. So all you have to have is one outbreak of violence in the Middle East. All you have to do is have one problem somewhere, and it's going to drive up the price of gasoline. But let's hope it stays down.
Yeah, that's like the redistricting thing. I didn't care if it won or not. Because...
Hold on a second. Let me just throw this out. Mark from Hobart said $2.31 a gallon this morning at Sam's. There you go. Okay,
yeah,
go ahead.
The redistricting, it failed fine. Okay, it did. I didn't care one way or the other because I have a busy corner where I live. And I've been associating with some other people that are campaigning for certain people in this area. I've been going around since I'm semi-retired. I go around and talk to a bunch of the truck drivers, trucking companies, talking to people, telling them I printed out some papers of certain things that certain elected officials in our area have not done for us, except waste our pictures and waste our time and just do photo shoots, And
well, look here. I said this before. I was not a fan of redistricting either. I think that the people who call in all the time and complain about Frank Mervan, get somebody to run against him that can win, and that's the way it should be done. I think it should be done through the normal election process. I do know that there are several candidates, and I'm told by some well-known Republicans in the area that the one individual. She's a county commissioner out of Porter County, that she could be a very viable candidate. Sounds pretty good on paper.
Yeah.
So,
I might, I might split my vote a little bit this year because, there is some that I don't like that certain party, but they have been doing some good for us. But one certain individual won't answer me 2 questions, and I'll be darned if I'd ever support that person.
Well, the person that I was talking about, her name is Barb Regnitz, and she's a Porter County commissioner. And supposedly she's a very capable candidate. I know a lot of people were banking on Jennifer Ruth Green, who's filed, but Jennifer Ruth Green has some other issues, it appears. So I think this Barb Regnitz may have the
And then,
Republican nomination, and she may give Frank
yeah,
Ravan a run. I don't know anything about her, but
yeah.
again, I'm just being told by Republicans that they're banking on her.
I don't understand what happened with my NIPSCO bill, but last month's bill, okay, I am on the budget plan, and then every May they recalculate it, and then my bill might change. Well, last month, my bill dropped
You told me
quite a
about
bit.
that.
But then now I just got my email and my statement. Okay, it's back up to where it was. I just wonder if anybody knows if NIPSCO had to refund money to us for
I
some
think
reason
that
or
was
something.
well. I think that's what happened. I think your cycle, ended, and you may have paid in more than you needed to, so you got the benefit of the end of the cycle. But look, a lot of people want to blame Mike Braun for the increase in NIPSCO. I'm no fan of Mike Braun whatsoever. I don't like the guy. He doesn't strike me as somebody that I want to sit down and have coffee with, vote for, or anything else. He just doesn't.
No.
I really liked Eric Holcomb, but I had a number of people now who have sent me information that shows that a lot of the rate increases that we're getting right now were approved under Holcomb. And
Right.
the biggest problem with NIPSCO is that NIPSCO isn't producing enough energy. They're having to buy energy. Go back to when Gary Neal was their CEO, back around 2000, when he said that he wanted to position NIPSCO to be, a company that didn't rely on producing energy but buying energy. And that approach certainly hasn't worked. That's for sure. So
Yeah, I'm going to kind of let you go in a second so you can get to other people. But the thing is I'm going to get me some more wings for the games this weekend. But the thing is a certain team that I rooted for last weekend isn't playing Saturday, so I'll be eating all my wings Sunday.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Joe, I think the only big game is the Army-Navy game, right? So really, Mike, if you're going to be watching football, you're really going to be watching one game on Saturday. Now Sunday, you've got some opportunities, but Saturday you're going to be watching one football game, though it should be a good game.
Right.
There's lots of basketball playing, however. Lots
Yeah,
of
it's like
games.
it's like people are going to be. I'm going to be sitting in a nice lazy boy chair. I can look at my bathroom. I can see my ice box, and I have my hot wings, and I'll be comfortable, and I won't
tell
be
your
freezing.
age, Mike. You can tell your age when you said you're going to be sitting in a lazy boy, and the first thing you mention is, "I'll be able to see the bathroom." Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got to move on, Mike. But
yeah, hey, everybody, because of this weekend's temperature drop and everything, make sure you check on everybody and just be a real nice person and call somebody and check on them and make sure they're being and they're okay.
All right, very good. Hey, thanks for the call.
Yep.
845-1100. We have another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Well, this vote by the Republicans on redesigning the congressional district shows that Indiana is not nearly as conservative as it's very often portrayed or people think, and that's been my experience.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is not as deep red as some people claim it is. I think that it's deep red when it comes to the presidential election. I don't think there's any question there. Although it did go blue once, which was for Barack Obama in recent years. So it's possible. But I think that when it comes to other issues, it is more moderate than some people from the outside believe it is. I think when you live here, you realize that it's more moderate. But that won't stop the pundits out of Washington and New York claiming that we're a bunch of hayseeds.
True.
I mean, they have disdain for Indiana. Indiana has, David Letterman was right, and I used to really like David Letterman. I don't anymore, but David Letterman was right when he first started his career, and he said that the view of Indiana for outside Indiana was that it was the butt of jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go back to the 1960s. Green Acres Green Acres, for example. They never said where Hooterville was, but Paul Henning, the creator, did. I read the book that his wife wrote. It was largely based somewhere not too far from Richmond, Indiana. So it was in Indiana. I mean, they talked about State Road 1 in the show. So it's been the butt of jokes. Jonathan Winters made his career basically joking about Indiana. So, but go ahead, Walt.
I was at a conservative conference in Chicago back during the Daniel era, and when I was sitting at a large table, and people talked about where they were from, and I said I'm from Indiana, and they all said, "Oh, you're lucky that you're from Indiana, a strong conservative state like Indiana." I said, "Well, let's look at Mitch Daniels." Oh, they also said good things about Mitch Daniels, and I said, do you really think, for example, Mitch Daniels commuted the death sentence of a triple murder? Does that sound very conservative? And they looked around and said, no, it doesn't. I said, well, I'm here to tell you that Indiana is not as conservative as you may think, and especially the crowd in central Indiana. They tend to be a lot of mamby-pamby Republicans. And
Mitch Daniels, for what it's worth, was a fiscal conservative, but he was a moderate on most other views. And I met him several times. I actually served as the MC for the groundbreaking of where Cabela's is now, largely because Mayor McDermott wanted the tallest person he could find, because Mitch Daniels is like 5 foot tall. And so
right.
I think Jake Jacobs still has photos of me and Mitch Daniels and the mayor standing there, and the mayor's on one side, I'm on the other, and you see Mitch and it looks like Mitch is on his knees between us. So but again, he wasn't a bad governor. He said some things early on that I didn't like. He had some real disdain for Northwest Indiana, some of which was true when he talked about some of the corruption up here back in the day, but overall, he was largely a fiscal conservative and a moderate elsewhere. So,
well, let's the media has gone back to telling us that that Biden was sharp as a tack, kind of thing. What are they saying now? That's so crazy. They're talking about these boats, these high-speed powered boats carrying illegal drugs to get into the United States, that those are fishing boats.
Look, here's what's so crazy about the news media. 78%, according to the most recent poll, 78% of Americans believe that it's justifiable to take out those boats. On top of that, who were two of the major sponsors and supporters of a bill that all but legalized taking out those boats in the 1990s? Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer. Yep. So, I'm so tired of this baloney, because you know what? I have no sympathy for drug dealers, and they're out in the middle of the ocean in these boats, and they're filled with stuff. Come on, they're fishing. Really? Are we that naive to believe that they're fishing? They're not fishing. And as far as Maduro and his ilk, look, he lost the last election. He lost the last election by they believe 20 percentage points.
Right.
And the woman that won, we just snuck her out of the country so she could go claim her Nobel Peace Prize. And the CIA basically snuck her out in a wig and got her through 10 checkpoints and got her out of the country, which is pretty amazing. And it also sends a message to Maduro that, hey, if the CIA can do that, guess what, buddy? They're literally watching you when you're inside your home. His days are numbered. I'm not going to lose any sleep over him. I think it's a pressure campaign. Somebody said the other day, I know who it was. They asked General Jack Keane, who's a retired Army general, former deputy chief of staff, or former chief of staff of the Army and deputy chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And they asked him, how long do you think Venezuela's military would last if it actually took on the U.S. armed forces that are in the Caribbean right now? And Kane laughed and said, 18 minutes. And they said, no, really? And he said, no, he said, I used to plan out these kinds of exchanges. He said, and I will tell you, it'll take 18 minutes. He said, that's about how long it'll take. He said, they have no, he said, they've got 3 fighter planes that fly, and none of them, would stand up very long. And I mean, he was just running down the issues. I hope it doesn't come to that. I think it's a pressure campaign. I don't think Trump plans on doing anything other than sending troops in once Maduro falls, and then sending in to basically help the woman that had legitimately gotten elected to take office.
Now, 18 minutes is, it wouldn't take much more than that if they use their air and naval power to the full extent. In Vietnam, they took it right, and the Democrats always like to take our air superiority off the table.
Right.
I mean, we have countries like North Korea. Their army is bigger than our whole military. Their army alone, for example.
Yeah, but half of them don't even have guns. I mean, that's the crazy thing about them. But look, you were a pilot in Vietnam. You know exactly what they're talking about. They've got the Gerald Ford, okay, the world's largest aircraft carrier, sitting down there. It's packed with fighter jets, and then you've got B-52s and B-1s that have now been based on islands in the Caribbean. So you've got the air power alone to take out, and then the Ford is being escorted by, let's see, 4 Aegis destroyers, and then they say that there are probably somewhere between 8 to 10 submarines and a variety of other ships in the ocean off Venezuela, and that's and 30,000 Marine Corps troops sitting on a amphibious assault ship. So it sounds to me like they've got plenty of firepower if they really need it. But I don't think it'll come to that. I think what's going on right now is that Maduro is going to be forced out of power. That the drug cartels that keep him in power right now are going to cut a deal with the CIA. We're going to cut back on shipments to the U.S. and we're going to stand clear of Maduro. And once they do that, he falls, and the woman that legitimately won comes to power, and things change. That's my own guess, but could be wrong.
But the response of the Democrats to the bombings of these drug speedboats is so typical. I mean, they have a phobia against using American air power, which can be overwhelming. I mean, if you apply it correctly, as it was during the Persian Gulf War I. I mean, the whole shock and awe approach. I mean, the war was over in days.
Sure. And by the way, I mentioned Jack Kane because he's one of the things that he's famous for. Walt, I don't know if you remember, but back when Trump was in his first term in office, he was having all those exchanges with Kim Jong-un, and he was calling him Little Rocket Man. Remember all those things? And then all of a sudden, things melted one day, and all of a sudden we wake up and we find out that Trump is going to meet with Kim Jong-un. There was a story in the Washington Post, and I know I can find it if I look for it, that said that largely Jack Keane, who's a commentator on a couple of news channels, including Fox News, they had him go on one afternoon and describe how he would handle Kim Jong-un if he were asked to draw up plans. And he described that he would send 12 B-1 bombers. He would sweep them in from the north, right along the border from China. And he gave this great detail, and I happened to be watching that day, and he described how 12 B-1 bombers could take out all of the 38,000 pieces of artillery in a matter of minutes. And he said, in fact, we'd only need 6. We'd use the 6 as backups. And he described, the dropping the bomb that we dropped on Iran's nuclear weapons program. And he said, we dropped that on the different shelters that Kim Jong-un has, and they said that Kim Jong-un literally, of course, like a lot of people, tune into American television, And he saw what was described, and he realized then that we didn't have to use nuclear weapons to take him out. We could do it conventionally in a matter of minutes. And that's what brought him to the table. So if we want to do it, we have the power to do it. We absolutely do.
The question is will. Where's the political will? And we.
Right. And in the case of North Korea, you can't do it because he's a nut job who will use his nuclear weapons in a heartbeat. So we can't do it to him.
It's going back a little bit to Indiana.
Yeah.
Back in the mid '90s, I was an elected delegate to the Indiana Republican Convention, and I attended a luncheon where I was the only person from Northwest Indiana at this table. Everybody else was from Indianapolis. And I asked them a very simple question. I said, "Why do you Central Indiana people put Senator Lugar on a pedestal kind of thing? If you look at his record, he's not a very Republican guy, and he's very popular with Democrats." And they just kind of look around and say, "Yeah, we know, but he saved Indianapolis, and that's why we're so loyal to him."
Absolutely, he did wonders for Indianapolis. Indianapolis was Indiana no place, and he turned it around. No doubt about it. He was a good mayor of Indianapolis, but he struck me as an individual who basically worried about his ego and worried about funneling money into Indianapolis as senator. So I wasn't a big fan of his either. But hey, Walt, thank you so much for calling. We've got to go to a break. So appreciate the call. If you want to call back, feel free to do so. 845-1100 is the number to call. We're going to go to a quick break. You're listening to the Morning Call Friday edition on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. Excuse me. All right, we're back. It's the morning call with Tom Dabertin, the Friday edition. This December morning, cold morning as we speak, and it's going to get a lot colder this weekend. We'll talk about weather in just a second, but let's go to traffic. Traffic in northwest Indiana looks pretty good. No problems really reported at all, except for, again, a slowdown at the toll booths at Portage on the Indiana Toll Road. Otherwise, looks fine. Go across the line to Illinois. Actually looks still pretty good, except for I-57 between 294 and the Ryan. There are a couple of accidents, and it's slowing things down. Bishop Ford looks good. Dan Ryan actually still looks good. Kind of amazed on that one. Everything else is in pretty decent shape. So with that, let's talk about weather. Joe, what do you think?
Excuse me. All right, well, I think it's going to be really cold and continuing to get colder for the rest of the weekend. It's going to start off with the highs of the rest of the week on Friday today with a high of 32. We're supposed to have some light bits of snow until about around 8 o'clock, and then that's pretty much about it for the day. On Saturday, it's going to get much colder with a high of 13. You're going to get about an inch on Saturday between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., so it will not come in one drove. It will be pretty light that day. And then Sunday, the snow will stop, but it will drop all the way down to a high of 11. And it'll be really cold that day, so make sure you guys bundle up this weekend.
So let me ask you this. You're a young guy. When it snows, when it's cold like that, does the cold, I mean, snow's one thing, but does the cold itself keep you in or not?
It definitely doesn't keep me in. I am such a sucker for the cold. I hate the cold. I always dress up in as many layers as I possibly can.
You're the only guy in the 20-some years I've been affiliated with WJOB to ever wear a Snuggie to sit in the control booth.
It's cold in here. It gets cold in here.
I know, but it was like, 3 weeks ago? And you're like, yeah, I'll be right back. And I'm like, where are you going? And you go, I'm going to go get my Snuggie. And you came back and you were zipped up. That was hilarious. That was great.
And I was comfortable. That's what leads to good producing, you know?
No, you know what? If it makes you comfortable, that's all that matters. I will say, as you get older, the cold definitely has an impact on you. My wife, I mean, Donna, it doesn't seem to impact. It doesn't bother her. She's out there. She's walking the dogs. Last night, she said to me about 7 o'clock, I'm going to go take the dogs for another quick walk. And she went out and took for a walk. She didn't even bother to ask me if I was coming because she knew the answer. You know, it's like, nope, I'm not. I'm home. Although I had to drive to Buffalo Grove yesterday. And coming back from Buffalo Grove, I left there at 3:30 and got home at about 10 minutes to 6. So she kind of knew that I had enough of being outside yesterday.
Buffalo Grove is a throwback for me. I have beef with the people of Buffalo Grove.
Really? About what?
Yeah, so the people of Buffalo Grove and the people of Barrington, we used to play in youth football, and both of those towns are notorious for cheating with their birth certificates and having older kids play on younger teams so that they can win titles. It is notorious between those two towns. Don't think I've ever forgotten about that.
But does it really, and here's the question in my mind, is it that important? You're talking about kids that are, 12 years old or so?
Yeah.
Or younger?
No, yeah,
I mean, does it really matter to win at all cost?
Yes, it always matters.
To me, it's sad. Again, look, you played football. My son played football. You guys were good athletes, but you know, is that at the end of the day, is that going to make a huge difference in your life? It may make a difference as far as causing you to be able to focus on certain goals. And you know, I'm not going to trash athletics at all. I think sports are great. But at the end of the day, you're not going to go to an interview and they're going to ask you what you did in youth football when you were 12 years old. Right? I mean, nobody's going to ask you in an interview, well, now what did you do when you were 12 years old? They don't care. They just don't. They're focused on what you've done recently and where you're at in your life. Again, to me it's just crazy to believe that parents are out there trying to cheat so that 12-year-olds can win a title. But I believe you. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was a crazy time, and I'm like too overly competitive to ever forgive them for that.
No.
I get too competitive with Literally everything. If you want, you could make a contest out of anything with me, and I'm right there giving you 100%. I don't know. It's bad,
Well,
honestly.
my only issue with Buffalo Grove is that it's just hard as hell to get back from.
It's so far.
Okay, it is far, and then when you try and come back, there's no good route, especially with the Kennedy under construction. That's not a good option. You get on the Eisenhower, and it's just backed up yesterday, so I took Roosevelt Road. I drove the surface streets all the way through Chicago.
It's funny because you bring up like the time and stuff like that, and when I'd play Buffalo Grove and we lived in that area, I used to think it was so far away. But if you were to look up like where Buffalo Grove is from my house, it's maybe like 35 minutes. And it's crazy to think how like what was far for you back then, just sitting in the back seat. Now you're like, oh, drive's only 35 minutes, easy.
Right. No, yeah, you're right. You're right. It does change. But speaking of drives, have you taken a drive to the south side of Chicago and seen the Obama Library building going up?
I have not.
It is the ugliest thing on planet Earth.
I
I can't understand how they spent. I believe it's the cost overruns have taken it up to somewhere like $600 million. It is the ugliest building on planet Earth. And I say that in part because when I was at the Museum of Science and Industry, we had to be very careful on anything we did because they wanted to make sure it didn't detract from Jackson Park and detract from the Midway at University of Chicago. And then you go over and you see the ugliest looking building. It looks like the Metropolitan Correctional Institute in Chicago. It has very few windows. It's this monolithic, concrete, ugly looking structure. And I can't imagine it's going to draw people to it. I don't care if you're the biggest fan of Barack Obama or not. You're not going to venture down to see that thing. It is as ugly as could be. Maybe that's the reason why they built it ugly, so people will go and see it. I mean, it's just not good looking at all. Who designed this thing is beyond me, and I know there's been massive cost overruns, and it just sticks out like a sore thumb in a very beautiful area. I mean, you've got the museum, which is the old Palace of Fine Arts from the Columbian Exposition. And you've got beautiful trails and trees and lagoons in Jackson Park, and then you go over to the University of Chicago campus, and there's a mix of modern and traditionalist buildings, but this thing doesn't fit in anywhere.
This can't be it, is it?
That's it. That big ugly building. That's it. That is it. It is ugly to the core.
What is
it
that
has
say?
almost no windows on it.
What does that say on it?
Oh, I don't know. It's probably some speech of his, but it probably should say, "Isn't this a really ugly building, folks? I don't know why we built it here." It is just ugly. I cannot believe that ugly building has been built in an otherwise very attractive area. Just insane. Do we have callers waiting?
Yeah, we do.
Well, we better go to the callers. Yeah, take a look at that one, Joe. That is ugly as can be.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
845-1100 is the number. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Tom. How are you, sir?
Fine, Mon. Have you seen the Obama Library?
Yes, and
would you agree it's ugly?
I've seen more attractive grain elevators, to be honest with you.
I agree with you. That's a good point. Hey, by the way, thank you so much for coming on Wednesday.
Thank you for the invite.
That was a great show. That was your knowledge.
I'm
is
sure
amazing.
all two people who listened were thrilled.
No, I actually had a number of people who called me and said they really enjoyed our conversation. They thought it was an amazing conversation. They did not know any of that stuff, and found it to be. In fact, I had one person who said to me, "How much of that is true?" And I said, "All of it." And
all of it.
They said that's what was very scary for them. That they had to ask that because they didn't realize how close we came to Armageddon.
Well, we'll move from that to something I want to share with you about the Obama Library.
Sure.
In certain quarters of the city, they call it something that's not very complimentary, and I'm not sure I can say it on the radio, but they call it the Obama B plug, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's well, I'll tell you what, I know what you're saying, but to be very honest with you, it might be a bit of a compliment. The thing is as ugly as anything I've ever seen. I mean, it is just horrible.
I think they're calling it brutalist in its architectural design, but I mean, that doesn't even begin. It's horrible. And you're right. That was a beautiful campus. And it looks like someone just put up a, functionary bureaucratic building for,
Where
it's not even,
where are the Friends of the Park who basically chased out the Star Wars Museum off the lakefront, who actually used to come after me when I was at the museum? We put up new parking signs, and they protested the parking signs because the parking signs didn't fit with the decor of Jackson Park. I mean, they would come after us over the most ridiculous things. We would put up, at this time of the year, Christmas around the world, right? We'd put up signs for shuttle parking, and they would complain about the A-frame easels in the park, saying that they were detracting from the beauty of the park. And I said to one woman, I said, "Ma'am, really, you really believe that?" And she said, "Yes, I do. Yes, I do." And I said, "Really? You just told me it detracted from the green beauty of the park." I said, "It's December. There's nothing green out there, ma'am." And
you kind of wish some of those old Karens would come back to some of the park board meetings and stuff.
They sold the city of Chicago just a pack of lies, and said this was going to be this massive draw. It's going to draw thousands of people. And when you see that building, I've seen other presidential libraries. Monceau, have you? I'm sure, and they don't look that ugly.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, I can't recall. It seemed to me that all the other all the other previous president libraries were funded privately. I mean, that's what I recall. And the last three presidents, Clinton, Obama, and Biden, I don't know about the Bush. I don't know about the Bush library, but they've all taken public money, and I just find that, a little sketchy. But
I agree with you. They should be funded. They should be funded privately. By the way, I don't know if you've heard the plans for the Biden library, where it's going. In a former Mattress World store.
Are you serious?
Yeah, well, it may as well. I mean, Sleepy Joe would be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I was prompted to call because of your conversation with young Joe there about his comment about sports and people cheating, and I was just wondering if you'd heard about the controversy down in Florida where this Philadelphia football team went down there and they robbed a Dick's Sporting Goods, and Sheriff Grady down there like arrested 6 players, and they had to forfeit their championship game. I just wondered if Joe had heard about that. I wanted to get his perspective on his Gen Z.
I have not heard about that. What do you know? What level it was? Was it like high school?
It was like 14-year-olds, I think.
Jesus. Well, I don't even know what opinion to give here. I mean, that's just
look up Sheriff Grady on Google. Sheriff Grady and football championship.
I've got it right here. I've got it right here. 8 Philadelphia youth football players were arrested after $2,200 in Dick's Sporting Goods items were stolen in Florida. So I have it. Yeah. And
so the coach from Philadelphia was down there pleading the case of letting them go. And then he basically said after they said, "Well, we prosecute thefts down here in Florida, sir." He's like, "Don't you have anything better to do with your time?" They basically said, "No, we prosecute all thefts."
Yeah, I don't really. It's a tough thing to put an opinion on because at 14, I feel like you're impressionable enough to where it may be, it's the parents and the coach's fault almost as much as the kids.
Well, you know how much it costs to travel. They had to have spent some decent money to travel there, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then they sneak out of the hotel before the game, and go and decide, hey, let's go rob a Dick's Sporting Goods. Just blows my mind. But
yeah, and
I'm in a different generation.
I'm reading this, and you're absolutely right. First of all, that sheriff would not be the play. If I knew that he was the sheriff and I was going to plan to steal anything, I wouldn't go to that community because that sheriff looks like he means business. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd, and it's interesting too because I'm reading the New York Post and then I'm reading ABC News, and ABC News makes it sound like it's overkill, and the New York Post is saying basically giving more details than ABC.
Mm-hmm.
ABC says it happened, but they're making a suggestion that these were youth, and so they're trying to create some sort of an excuse. But wow, I can't believe that you traveled to Philadelphia from Philadelphia to Florida, and you
in other lightly reported news, did you see why Indiana Republicans decided to vote down the redistricting? Did you happen to see that they were negotiating with Maryland Democrats if they didn't redistrict, that they wouldn't redistrict, and it gave up one Republican seat to the Democrats. They're brilliant at their negotiation tactics. I mean, I have all the balls. Let's negotiate. Yeah, it's out there. It'll come out today, most likely in some of the conservative news channels. But it definitely happened, and it just shows you how inept the party of the Republicans are. And frankly, I think this is the one thing President Trump has been brilliant at, is allowing people to expose themselves. And I think just in talking with a few people since the news came out yesterday afternoon, that's what they're all saying. They're not really mad. They're just like, okay, well, now we know who they really are. I know some people are not seeking reelection. I think that's Ed Charbonneau's case. And I know Ed. I know his son ran my congressional campaign. I don't know him well, but it surprises me. But it did expose who they were, and that gives us a chance to
get
rid of them.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. It'll be an interesting primary.
Yeah.
Hey, Mont, thank you so much for calling.
Sure. One last thing.
Yeah.
If Rick Niemeyer's listening, dude, don't call me for any kind of support for your next coming campaign.
We'll keep it right there. Thank you, Mont. We've got a bunch of callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Boy, I tell you what, Joe, I want you to listen to what I'm saying. I'm going to say it nicely. I've learned from people that were on the picket lines that got killed, and they wouldn't be speaking very kindly this morning of Dan Dernock. Now we're on the radio, and I can't do that. So how I am going to speak about Dan Dernock, I'm just going to bring the names out. It's people like Dan Dernock is why these National Guard have had such a hard time, and 2 got shot.
Yeah, by the way, you heard yesterday the one congressman who basically described it, Benny Thompson, Representative Benny Thompson, described the shooting of the National Guard as in the head as an accident. That it was an accident. It was not a shooting. It should be called an accident, according to him.
Okay, what we're trying to do here, this article come out September 18th, 2024. 158 Democrats vote against bill to deport illegal immigrants who committed sex crimes. It's Frank Mervyn. So, what Niemeyer, we got to get into the Niemeyer. What Dernock done and how he got to where he was rubbing elbows with the Democrats. You know that. I think it was, I'm not going to say the guy's name, but the other guy should have got in. But he rubbed elbows with the Democrats, and he got in. Now, Niemeyer. I really like Randy Niemeyer. So we go out to, Lover Girl and I go out to a place to eat in Lowell. When Niemeyer was running, Randy. And this explains a lot now. And I'm seeing Mervyn signs in Niemeyer's district. Now, this is probably the result of Randy Niemeyer. And Now, not Rick Niemeyer, okay? That there's so many Mervyn signs, it's probably because of Rick Niemeyer, and this is how Randy lost. So going back, Trump is doing everything he can to put these criminals back to Venezuela and everywhere. And we've got 2 National Guardmen shot. And this guy sits around, and you could see on social media, especially in MX cartoons, what they think of Dan Dernalk and Randy Niemeyer. Trump has got shot in the ear. He's going out of his way to send these people back that are criminals and sex offenders and child trafficking. And now we got to worry about Mervyn. He voted for this. Is that what you want? Is that what you really want? So what I'm saying is, when I heard some people speak from the union, and I think you know who I'm talking about, Tom, they would say some things that would make you cringe about Dan Dernalk and Rick Niemeyer, because we're fighting a huge battle here of immigration, the wrong kind of immigration that Mervyn and Biden were for. Biden said surge the border, and Mervyn said, I can't say like a steel worker. This is very wrong what happened. I don't want to get really bad like a steel worker, like you got blood on your hands, man. How could you possibly vote against Trump in his redistricting map when he's trying so hard, got shot in the ear to make your country safe? This is ridiculous. And you know what? I gave $100 to Mervyn. And Mervyn's not the man I thought he was. And I found that out.
Can I just interrupt you for a second? My point is that, look, the redistricting failed. But for you and a lot of others that call and complain about Mervyn, then basically doesn't that open the door to find somebody to run against them? I mean, isn't that the proper way to do this? I mean, if you want to get them out of there, run somebody that's a good candidate.
I'm going to tell you something. You could have the most powerful person in the universe run, and they're going to lose. I don't want to say who who the most powerful person is.
Yeah.
We don't have to mention that. And he's going to lose here in District 1. He's just going to lose because people are blind. I mean,
we need to listen. We need to move on because we've got full lines. So I'm going to move on.
I hope I stirred it up, but I'm very disappointed in Dan Dernalk and Rick Niemeyer.
All right, very good. Hey, thanks so much for the call. 845-1100. We've got additional callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, Tom, can I give a quick life lesson for Joe sitting there?
Sure.
Hey, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Joe. Sports and cheating. Michigan.
Don't please.
Yeah, that's what a mess that is.
Sign stealing is not cheating, by the way. All right, if you make your things obvious enough, and you have somebody that's willing to go out there and figure out.
Joe, let me cut you off.
There are people right now who are trying to defend his actions, and he broke into her home. Okay,
I'm not talking about that.
There's no defense. There's no defense for what this guy did. None at all.
Joe, that's what I'm talking about. What Tom mentioned. Life lesson, Joe. The guy went from the penthouse to the outhouse. Correct.
Very quickly too.
Think about that, Joe. One of the highest-paying, most high-profile positions in college football, and he blanked in his mess kit.
Yeah, that whole situation, I mean, that's not cheating. That's just being a cheater in your relationship. I feel like is different than the sport. But by the same token, obviously what he did was wrong, and I'm happy that he's gone, especially as a Michigan fan. I do not obviously condone what Sharon Moore did, and it is crazy. it baffles me that people even do stuff like that in that situation. I mean, you got everything you could possibly want in the world right there. You have a wife, you have 3 daughters, you got the best job on earth, and you get to watch and coach football and get paid to do it. So the opposite of free. And to just go and put your hormones and your testosterone above everything else, and think with your pants, is just absolutely insane to me. If the job for Michigan came with the condition that I could never look at another woman again in my life, I would take the job 100% without thinking again. So yeah, I mean, that whole thing with Sharon Moore is absolutely insane and is disgusting.
Topic number 2, Tom. I have a lot of respect for Mont. He seems very intelligent. He seems always on point with his calls.
One of the most intelligent people I know.
Can you give him a mulligan, because I really don't understand his last comment, and I want to understand it. I'm ignorant as to what he meant as far as Randy Niemeyer.
Yeah, absolutely. Mont can feel free to call back. Anybody can today. So absolutely, though, I'd love to have Mont call back. Mont, as you mentioned, he's very intelligent, very, very articulate. So if he needs to clarify something, absolutely.
Did you understand what he meant by Randy Niemeyer? Don't ask me for any support.
I think he said Rick Niemeyer, though.
Oh, is that what he said?
Yeah, Rick Niemeyer. So in other words,
okay.
Rick Niemeyer, of course, is a relative of Randy. I think the issue is with Rick Niemeyer. He's a state senator for South County, and I think that's what Mont was talking about.
I've lost all respect for Dan Darnell. I think MX is on point as far as protecting the country. I don't agree with everything that Trump does, but he's taken some steps to correct some things, and I think Dan Darnell is going the way of Mervan. And obviously, you know how I feel about Mervan, who didn't even have the cojones to come on your show and answer unscripted questions. So whoever's name you can get out there to run against Mervan, let's get the name out there.
Well, I'll tell you one name that I've been given, and her name is Barb Regnitz, and she's the Porter County Commissioner. And I'm going to try and reach her and give her the opportunity to come on, just like I've extended to Frank Mervan and others. I'm told by a very, a very good friend of mine who happens to be a major player in the Republican Party in Lake County and in the state. He says this is somebody who's going to be a very viable candidate. And he said she's very popular in Porter County. She's very reasonable, very, very knowledgeable, and she's going to be a great candidate. And that's all he keeps on telling me. So I'm going to assume this guy that I've known for many years is right about this.
Well, if I were you, and I'm not, and I don't want to tell you how to run your show, I'd give up on Frank Mervan calling in and doing anything credible for the state of our country.
Well,
and
I've extended the offer again, so I'm gonna give him the opportunity. I'll be fair to anybody and everybody, and if he wants to come on, great. But I don't think I'm not going to hold my breath. I'll put it that way.
No, and I expect that one of the next calls you'll hear from is Dave Gehrman, whose head is so far up Mervan's keister that there'll probably be an echo.
All right. Hey, thanks so much. 845-1100, we're going to take another call. We're going to take a break. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to the Morning Call Friday edition on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. We're going to come back. We'll take the phone calls that we have waiting for us. And then I've got a good friend of mine, Brian Beal, the Grand Knight of the Knights of Columbus and Whiting, who I think will chime right in on some of this discussion this morning. But he's here to talk about some of the things that are coming up in the Knights of Columbus. So if you're on hold, just stay there. We'll be right back. Again, we're going to take some commercial messages, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Morning Call. All right, we're back, and before we get to our guest, we've got some people holding, right? So we're going to take the one caller because I hate to make people wait. So let's go ahead and take that call, and then we'll go to our guest. Do we lose him?
They just hung up.
Oh, well, there you go. All right, so if you've been holding, feel free to call back in a few minutes. But right now, I want to switch gears a little bit. I've got Brian Beal here. Brian is the Grand Knight of the Knights of Columbus of the Whiting Council. Pope John the 23rd Council, 1696. Been around over 100 years, well over 100 years. I know that council well because I'm a past Grand Knight. I'm a past district deputy from that council. So I'll go ahead, and with that, good morning. Great to have you here.
Hey, good morning, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
I think his mic is down. Try that again.
All right, Tom.
There we go. Yep,
right.
got you now.
Thanks for having me on, Tom. Good to be here.
So, just a quick, give a quick overview of what the Knights of Columbus is, what it does.
Yeah, the Knights of Columbus is a Catholic faith-based organization with about 2.1 million members worldwide. It's based on the 4 pillars: the pillar of charity, which is our biggest pillar, as well as unity, fraternity. We're a male fraternal organization, and of course patriotism. So, specifically, the Whiting Knights of Columbus Council, which is where I'm Grand Knight, has been around since 1913, and it's one of 195 councils in the state of Indiana alone. The Whiting KSC, as you mentioned, has had 81 Grand Knights out of the 113 years it's been in existence. And Tom, you were a Grand Knight. Do you remember what number you were out of 81? I'm obviously 81.
Oh, I have no idea, but I was Grand Knight back about 1990, so it's some time back, I can tell you that.
You were the 68th.
68th, okay.
68th Grand Knight.
68th.
Yeah.
Wow.
We do a lot of good things for the community. Like I said, we're built primarily on charity. I have a good group of guys that are willing to give of their time and their efforts, and
we do raise a lot of money and support a lot of good causes. No doubt.
Yeah, it's about $15,000 a year we hand out to local charities and faith-based charities in the region.
Yeah, so, again, the Whiting Knights of Columbus, of course, Brian and I are members of the Whiting Knights of Columbus, but there are a lot of councils in Northwest Indiana. It's one of the few fraternal organizations that I would say has been able to maintain its space, if you will, in Northwest Indiana. A lot of charitable and fraternal organizations have gone by the wayside, but not Knights of Columbus.
Yeah, we've had a long-standing history in Whiting, and there are councils in Munster and Highland and Griffith that are also very well in tune to what's going on in the community and what their needs are.
So there are a couple of big events coming up at the Knights of Columbus, one tomorrow and then one at the end of the year. So let's talk about those.
Yeah, tomorrow night we have our charity night, which is our annual raffle. There were 600 tickets that have been sold. The raffle will take place at 9 o'clock tomorrow, but even if you don't have a ticket in the raffle, our doors will open at 7 o'clock. Come on out for $10. You'll get some food, draft beers included. We'll have some music. There's mixed drinks for sale. And we'll have some pull tabs, 50/50s, raffle baskets. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, and I'll be working, and I believe I'm signed up to work the door. So come out, and like to see all of our listeners and viewers. So come out tomorrow night. Begins at 7 o'clock. Raffles at 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock, yep.
And the event is on until 10 o'clock. So
11.
11. I'm sorry, 11. So. You got 4 hours to enjoy a good evening, cold night, nothing else to do. Head over to the Knights of Columbus.
Yep, exactly. And then we also have our pierogi drop coming, which is an annual event on New Year's Eve run by Andy Dybel. And it was voted the number 1 drop in the United States of America by USA Today. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, they did. And again, this is the 10th year?
10th year, yep. 10th year.
10th year. So in 10 years' time, it's grown to be an extremely popular event. It, again, draws great attention, lots of fun, in fact, it even draws Chicago news media coverage. Can't forget the fireworks with the drop. Basically, for years, it's been run by Rick Mossels and I and Dennis Batustek.
That's right.
But this coming year, it's going to be in Dennis's hands. It's Crazy Kaplan, of course, Greg Kaplan, longtime friend of mine, he supplies the fireworks and does a great job. He actually chooses which fireworks, and I always get a kick out of Greg because he'll tell me which ones are the finales, and he'll say, okay, look, line it up this way, and these are your finale cakes, and it's just great fireworks. But I won't be there this year. I've been to every one of them, but I won't be there this year because my daughter is getting married the same day, so I won't be around. And actually, that also eliminates Rick, Mylan, and John. So we're all, none of us are going to be there. So it's going to be up to you and everybody else to take on this.
Sounds good. And Dennis Patustek is a former fireman, so there's nothing to worry about with the firemen.
Dennis does a great job. Dennis and I, I think we've done it actually together from the very beginning, and it's far more organized, and a lot of planning goes into it. So it may not look that way, but there is a lot of planning.
Yeah, there's a lot of events going on that night. It's an indoor-outdoor event. We have a 10-foot illuminated pierogi that's dropping 50 feet at midnight. The fireworks Tom mentioned. There'll be ethnic food and cash bar inside. There'll be food trucks outside. There'll be countdown clocks, confetti. We'll have the church bells in the neighborhood ring at the stroke of midnight. And then we'll have live entertainment. We'll have the Underground Prophets. Adam Kazragas, another night at the Whiting Council, will be playing with the Underground Prophets. We'll have the Polkaholics outside, a music group. And then Rebecca Moonrise, who's a fire dancer. That's an added
that's
this year.
Something new.
That is new. So that could be interesting and dangerous at the same time, I think.
Well, again, though, you've got a retired fireman right there.
True.
So I think we'll be okay. But it draws a lot of people. They close off the streets at about 1:45 and it gets very large. I will just say one thing, folks. I see this every year. If you're going to come out there and you're going to bring your dog, make sure your dog is accustomed to the sounds of fireworks and the bells and everything else that's going on. I've seen a few people get very nervous and very upset because their dog is agitated. I wouldn't bring my dog to that event, so I'm just saying that. But please come out and enjoy the evening. It's a great evening, lots of fun, lots to do, lots to see. So come out and enjoy it. And I should mention, too, that in recent years they installed a flagpole, a giant flagpole,
Correct, yep.
which doubles in support of the mission of patriotism for the Knights of Columbus.
Correct.
So we
One
have
of our pillars, yep.
We have the basically the largest flag flying in the community.
I think other than the new Steak and Shake flags. You see those things going up?
Steak and Shake flags are very large, and then there's that giant flag over right at State Line by the old State Line generating. And, and so that one's very large as well. But in the community, this is by far the largest flag, and it's really, it really, again, kind of accentuates the one of those four pillars. Yep. So we have a lot of fun. We do a lot of entertainment, but the flagpole doubles as for the drop, and then the rest of the year has the largest flag in the community.
Yep. So, Tom, we have a lot of famous KSC members across the country. I'm going to give you a couple. Tell me if you think there have been a night or not. How about that?
Okay. All right. We'll see.
All right. What do you think about Babe Ruth?
He was.
Babe Ruth was a Knight of Columbus.
Absolutely.
How about Ozzie Guillen?
I believe he was.
He was not, but Mike Ditka is.
That's right. I knew there was a coach, and I couldn't remember if it was Ditka or Ozzie Guillen. Okay.
I think Ditka just turned 85, by the way, and that was a great year, the 85 Bears. You remember
that?
Yes.
Yeah, I do remember the Bears. I mean, it's the last time. Yeah, that was the last time I was really excited about them. I mean, they're doing okay this year, but I was really excited about them back in 85.
How about Mayor Brandon Johnson?
I'm going to say no.
That's a definite no.
Yeah, no way.
But, Richard Daley Jr. and Richard Daley Sr. was and Jr. still is.
Yes, I knew that. I actually knew that. Years and years ago, they had a ecumenical conference in Chicago, Brian, this was when I was Grand Knight, and we went up, a number of us went up to Chicago, and they had a mass in Grant Park. This is not the visit by the Pope, but they had a mass, and I think it was Cardinal Bernardine. And I remember that Richard Daley was there, and a number of people pointed out that not only was he a member, but I believe his brother was a member as well. All of his brothers were.
Okay.
They were all members of the Knights of Columbus.
How about the famous Milan Krasinski?
Well, Milan Krasinski definitely is, absolutely.
Yeah, he's a good member of our council. How about Harry Carey?
I'm going to say no.
That's a no.
Yeah.
That is a no. But Vin Scully was.
Vince Scully, yes.
Another announcer.
Yeah.
And then for all you Packer fans out there, Vince Lombardi was a former Knight.
That's right. Vince Lombardi was a former Knight. And Rick Mossel's always used to drive that home because, as listeners know, Rick and I have been friends for 61, going on 61 years now this next year. And we haven't killed each other yet, although a lot of people have predicted that would happen at some point. And Rick has never let me forget the fact that Vince Lombardi was a member of the Knights of Columbus.
Yeah.
Because he's a huge Packer fan.
He is that.
He's a lot of things. Rick's a lot of things, Brian. Trust me. There's a lot of things I could say, but we're not allowed to say it because of FCC regulations. So, but again, it's a great organization, as you mentioned. A lot of famous people have been members, and what's nice about it is it still functions as a fraternal organization. So it has that. That characteristic of pulling guys together in one direction, in this case, really 4 directions, but they've stayed true to themselves over the years, and they've been very active, very supportive of St. John. Should point out that we support St. John's School as well as part of our charitable support, and that's kind of near and dear to you, isn't it?
Yeah, my sister's currently the principal there. All of us kids went to school there.
Your mom was a teacher there.
Was a teacher there, yeah. So we have a long lineage. My dad went there as a student himself. So.
Your dad was, of course, just for listeners, your dad was also the principal of Franklin School for many years.
That's right, in Hammond, yes.
Right. So he was a school principal. Your mom was a teacher, 3rd grade?
She taught multiple grades, 3rd grade, 8th grade, 7th grade. She moved around as needed.
I remember, I think when she had my kids, she taught 3rd grade. And then, of course, many people know your sister, the current principal, Michelle Ondas, as being the former principal of Gavitt High School.
Correct. So, she had a long stint in Hammond. Yes, correct.
Yeah. So doing a great job at St. John. In fact, I just spoke to my daughter over the weekend, and she mentioned what a great job they're doing over at St. John with the Pen Pal program.
Ah, nice.
And my daughter said, I just can't believe how fun that is. And she said next year she's going to sign me up for it. So
great.
She said it's a great program, but a lot of good things going on there. And again, a lot of good things going on in the community. When you look at community events and things that go on over the years, back when we first started started Pierogi Fest, for example, we couldn't have done it without a lot of the members of the Knights of Columbus. Very, very supportive. A lot of the things that we started, over the years. Grew out of the Knights of Columbus. So got to give it a lot of credit for what it's done to the community and just the changes that it's created.
Yeah, you'll see us out there on the streets doing Tootsie Roll drives and in the community, helping out wherever's necessary. Shout out to our Father Andy Summerson, who's a great priest that helps us out.
Father Andrew Summerson is the chaplain of the Knights of Columbus in Whiting, and Father Andrew Summerson, of course, is unique. He's a Catholic priest, but he's a married Catholic priest. He's over at St. Mary Byzantine Catholic, and he has taken that community by storm.
Yeah,
I don't think most people knew the names of the priest at St. Mary's until Father Andrew. Now everybody knows Father Andrew, and you see him everywhere.
Yeah, you can't help but know Father Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've told this story before. I've had him on the air. The craziest thing, Brian, is you go over to the YMCA, and you get on a bike or you get on a treadmill, and you don't look to see who's next to you. And all of a sudden, you hear this voice, and it's Father Andrew, and it's like, hi, yeah, it's like he's everywhere. He is everywhere. Absolutely, yeah. He's around the community, but there are lots of other members, as you mentioned before, very well known in the community, do a lot of great things. And again, tomorrow night, come out and support the Knights of Columbus and their charitable causes starting at 7 o'clock.
Correct, 7
till
o'clock.
11 o'clock. It's $10 admission?
$10 admission. Like I said, it gets you a couple sloppy joes, beer, pop, and then there's a cash bar.
The world famous sloppy joes.
Oh yeah,
okay?
Unbelievable.
It's a recipe that cannot be matched.
Cannot be matched nor told, right?
That's right, nor told. Although I will say this much: there's mustard in it. I know that much. I mean, I know the recipe, but Mark Cobley will tell you that I don't. But he actually gave it to me years ago. But
Yeah.
because we did well. Of course, Mark's son played football. My son played football, and we used to do kind of after season events for the football team over the Knights of Columbus. Was another outreach.
Yep.
And one year Mark had to go somewhere, and he said, "Here, I'll just give you the recipe." He didn't realize he gave it to me, and then he said, "No, I didn't." I said, "Yes, he did." So I still have it. But again, another example of the things that we do. So great organization. Come out, folks, and support it. Tomorrow evening, there's not much else on the agenda that I can think of that's better than coming to that event tomorrow night. And I'll be glad to take your money. I'll be working the door. So look forward to seeing all of you, and look forward to seeing you, Brian, and supporting all the great work that Brian's doing. I will say this, folks. Brian said I was number 68 and you're number 81.
Correct, 81.
And I've got to say, Brian, you have done a great job as the Grand Knight.
Well,
you
thanks,
really have.
Tom. I
You
appreciate
have done a
that.
great job. You've really created a lot of energy and come up with some great ideas and also kept the organization true to its pillar reasons for existing. So done a great job on that.
You know, you're only as good as your membership, though. We have a bunch of great guys that are willing to give the shirt off their back to help anyone and anytime.
Well, and now we have just a message from Rick Mossels.
Oh boy, he's up.
He's up. I'm not sure what condition, but he is up. And he just sent me a text message. He's giving the one-word weather report. So when back in the day, Rick used to sit in with me, and he would do the weather.
Mm-hmm.
And so today's one-word weather report is crisp.
Crisp.
Right. But I have to do it his way. Crisp.
Yeah, you have to put a little emphasis in it.
Yes, crisp. So there you go. Well, thank you so much for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And again, folks, come out and support the Knights of Columbus tomorrow night. It's a big fundraiser for them. Their funds, again, help support a lot of activities in Northwest Indiana, so please be generous. We're going to be right back. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back and take your calls at 845-1100. It's the Morning Call Friday edition with Tom Dabertin. All right, we're back, folks. 845-1100 is the number to call. We had a lot of people wanting to chime in about the redistricting, so lines are now open. Give us a call. We're going to do traffic and weather, but Joe, you mentioned that you had a couple of people on the text line asking some questions this morning. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'll make a brief comment on it. So, yes, I am chronically on the comment section with you guys, so I do see all of your texts. And yes, I do see the questions talking about Kuziak. What I was told by Jed is that the food drive and the coat drive would continue, but it will happen after the holidays. That is everything that I know for sure on the topic.
And let's just be frank. Look, it's a great drive. He does a really good job. It's one of the things that I have to say I admire about Dave. And he, whoops, sorry, that was me, folks. Anyway, the food drive, though, and the coat drive, it doesn't matter whether it's before the holidays or after the holidays. It's probably going to have more of an impact after the holidays, to be honest with you, because people are very generous during the holidays, and then January and February, working with so many not-for-profits and being involved with a lot of not-for-profits over the years, they will all tell you that they starve January and February when they need help the most. So the fact that he's going to do it after the new year isn't going to make a difference at all. It's going to get to the right people and help out a lot of good people. So
yeah, so I mean, I think that's all we'll comment on it about for now. As far as him coming on air or anything like that, I personally have no knowledge or exact moment that I can tell you guys that he would be on or not. So I'd rather just not comment and tell you guys anything false or
we'll leave that one alone. But let's go to traffic and weather. Traffic in Northwest Indiana looks again remarkably good this morning. So we're not seeing any slowdowns. Seeing some problems now on the South Bishop Ford due to an accident, and trying to find out where this accident is. It's right at Sibley. I know that there's been some construction out there. So there is an accident, and then looking at the Ryan starting to show some backup right around 51st, going into 47th, but not nearly as bad as it's been lately. So that's kind of the good news, and it does dissipate once you basically get into the Circle interchange. We're in pretty good shape. The Kennedy's showing its usual backups due to construction. The Eisenhower is a mess. Stevenson has problems. 294 is wide open all the way to O'Hare. There you go with traffic. Let's talk about weather.
All right, the weather. It is cold. So I've been talking about how pretty much we were supposed to get like some light snow until 8. It's 7:30. I haven't been back outside, and it's just starting to get light out, but I don't think it's snowed. So I'm going to assume that we're clear for the rest of the day on the snow. So you're just going to have a high of 32. It's still going to be pretty cold. A little bit of sun, mostly cloudy, though, with some wind chills. And then Saturday, you're supposed to be getting about an inch throughout the day from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it's never going to hit you all at once or like pretty heavily. It'll just be like a light day of snow with a high of 13 and a low of -2. I usually don't do the lows, but it's the first time this year that I've seen it hit the negatives. So,
Joe, you like sloppy joes and beer? Come out to the Knights of Columbus tomorrow night. It'll be a good place for you.
oh, okay.
And because again, you're not going to be outside in that kind of weather.
No, you're
So
not. And
it's gonna be
sloppy
cold weather.
joes are good, cold weather food, to be honest.
Yeah, and
with
especially the recipe that the Knights of Columbus uses. It's a very good recipe. It was developed by Whiting firefighters. It's a very good recipe and has stood the test of time, I should say, not standard. Stood the test of time. So it's it'll be a fun evening. Looks like we have some callers, so we'll go right to the callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, what time is the Knights of Columbus event?
It is from 7 to 11 tomorrow evening.
Okay. Well, talking about Obama and
His ugly building. Yes.
His ugly building. Here's an article out of the Washington, D.C. Examiner dated October 8th. Headline, Obama's ugly center is a perfect symbol for his presidency. For one, the project was dreamed up with a $300 million price tag, but the Obama Foundation has already spent more than $615 million on the project and reportedly is planning on spending another $200 million or so. Additionally, and they conclude here, in that way, Obama's presidential center in Chicago perfectly represents his time as president. Is it excessively expensive? Far more than what was promised. It is making things worse for the everyday people it affects. It began with so much optimism, but turned into something ugly.
Well,
that's the Obama.
Walt, all I can say is that Mont probably described it correctly when he said what he described it as. It is an ugly, ugly building. And again, I don't understand how Barack Obama, again, it's his library. He had to have some say in the design. And, I've seen, for example, the Carter Center in Atlanta. I've seen some of these other libraries. You look at Ronald Reagan's library out in Orange County in California. I mean, these are beautiful buildings. They're beautiful facilities. They're facilities that you want to go and visit. You would not want to visit this place. I think it would give you claustrophobia because there are no windows. It looks like the Metropolitan Correctional Center.
Yes.
It's just ugly. I just can't believe that they're building this thing.
Another thing it reminds me of, Hitler to defend Berlin during the Second World War built these huge flak towers to mount anti-aircraft artillery to defend Berlin against American bombers and
you're right,
British bombers.
It looks like those flak towers.
Yep.
Oh my gosh! You know what? I've been trying to think of what it was that I've seen a photo of that it looks like, and I'm going to try and pull that up right now because you're absolutely right. It does look like the flak towers in Germany in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why they would build such an ugly building.
Well, last time I talked to you, I said there were two major catastrophes that Obama inflicted on this country. One, Obamacare. Two, the fact that by his actions in Libya convinced the North Koreans to not ever give up their nuclear weapons because Gaddafi in Libya, I mean, he cooperated fully with the United States on nuclear issues and even accepted terrorists to torture for intelligence purposes. But I thought of a third thing, and that is it really made the Russians angry. I mean, he lied to the Russians about his intentions in Libya. He engaged in Here's a guy who's got a Nobel Peace Prize from the Norwegians. That shows you how dumb the Norwegians were. He got a Peace Prize, and yet he bombed the bejeebers out of Libya over the opposition of the Russians. They agreed to not block his resolution in the United Nations as long as the military operation was limited. In fact, he lied to the Russians. I remember because I watched the foreign press. I watched the Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov. He was furious. I mean, the man was almost trembling with outrage that Obama lied to them about his intentions in Libya, and I think that played a role in pushing the Russians into the arms of the Red Chinese.
Well, I think there's clearly some consideration on your allegation, but I want to talk about Obama for a minute as it relates to Ukraine, because you and I both know that the Crimea Peninsula, basically was overrun by the Russians during Barack Obama's terms in office, and he basically did nothing and said, well, they had some historical claim to it. And, I remember at the time that he got such a pass on allowing the Russians to storm Crimea and take that area and take a good portion of the Donbass area. So I think Zelensky is out of his mind to believe that he's ever going to get that back. It's been in Russian hands now for, a dozen years or so. It's not going to go back by any means, but it was under Barack Obama that they basically invaded and took over the Crimea area. So, again, Obama, look, I voted for him like a lot of people. I voted for him both times. I thought that there would be some change. I was very excited by the Affordable Care Act. When he first talked about it, it made a lot of sense to me because, again, I know health insurance. And so I thought, wow, this is going to be a positive move. And all of the things that he proposed, and I'm not going to blame Barack Obama because Congress really did do in the Affordable Care Act before it ever got passed. They stripped that bill, the original plan, they stripped it of all kinds of things that actually were good moves. The idea that you could buy insurance as an employer across state lines and you could buy it through associations. And some of the other things that I've talked about in the past that could have driven down the cost of health insurance. And to his credit, Obama said after it got passed, he said it's a starting point. There's a lot of work to be done. Then nothing was done since. I mean, there's never been any change done to the Affordable Care Act. And I'll tell you right now, Walt, if you remember on Wednesday, I asked Lynette, and she said, look, yeah, she's going to be getting to the point she's no longer covered by her parents' insurance, and she's got to find coverage. And it does worry her. And my son has mentioned that health insurance is a big issue to younger people because they can't afford it anymore. It's become unaffordable. And it's a real mess. And I think the Republicans are making a mistake because the Republicans have this idea that we're just going to kick this can down the road and not worry about it. And they did support generally Bill Cassidy and some of the changes that he wanted to make. None of the Democrats supported the bill in the Senate, and it died. And it's a shame because Cassidy's bill wasn't perfect, but it was at least a couple of good Band-Aids, well-placed Band-Aids on the Affordable Care Act, and nothing's going to happen now.
Well, most of the Republican thinking on health insurance is that it should be competitive. But my problem with them is they've been talking about, they've never laid out a comprehensive approach to health insurance with all the bells and whistles in terms of ensuring competition, including what you just described. And because having been in corporate America, boy, if you don't have competition, they're going to rape you. I mean, they just sit around all day long thinking about how can we raise prices. If they have competition, they're reluctant to do so. And
part of the problem, and again, the original bill basically preserved that competition. The end result basically forced a undoing of the competition and caused the mergers. The biggest merger of all, of course, was Metropolitan Life and Travelers, which became United Healthcare, and you they're just such an albatross. They're so large and so difficult to deal with that they have gummed up the health insurance industry in the United States, and of course Anthem is right behind them. So they've created some real problems.
Talking further, you made some comments when you worked about the days when you worked for the Science and Industry Building.
Yes.
And how touchy everything was in terms of protecting the Jackson Park and the historical parts of it, and the and so forth. And it's amazing because of Obama, because of the racial politics in Chicago, Obama was able to push all that aside. I mean, you had groups like Friends of the Park and so forth, who normally are very quick to oppose anything that compromises.
Trust me, they used to go after me over parking signs. Okay,
yes.
And they were, they were a force to be reckoned with. Rahm Emanuel took care of them. He undid them. He canceled their biggest fundraiser, the Late Ride, which I emulated with the Wham Ride in Hammond, Whiting, and Munster. But he did away with that. He went to war with them. He was also upset because what's his name, the producer of Star Wars, wanted to build the Star Wars Museum in Chicago on the lakefront, and they pushed that out of the way as well. Friends of the Park had its moments, no doubt. There were some issues that I think they were overkill on, but how they allowed this thing to be built, this is going to be a permanent eyesore throughout the whole south side of Chicago. It just is.
Friends of the Park did not say a peep because of the racial politics. I mean, they went to war against the Star Wars Museum, which would have been a real moneymaker.
Yeah, no doubt about
it. What the effect on this ugly project for Obama is a lot of middle and working class people are going to be forced out of it because of the rising taxes and rent type thing.
Yeah, it's going to have a negative impact on a lot of people that live in that area and their home prices as well. So you're absolutely right. Hey, Walt, we got to move on. Again, thank you so much for calling.
Sure enough.
845-1100, and I believe we got some additional callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Tom.
Yes.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right. I was thinking I'm going to be 70 in a couple months, and I started thinking about Inland Steel and J&L. When I worked construction downtown, when I worked construction in East Chicago, I helped build that North End expansion. And then, back in the late 70s, there was like 35,000 workers working there. Now I think there's less than 10,000 working there. J&L's gone. And it was all under the direction of the Democratic Party. And you always hear the Democratic Party talking about the unions, the unions, the unions. We love the unions. Well, to all the big-time Democrats out there, you know something? The unions don't need the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party needs the unions because of the money. How many times we go to union meetings? Come on, you got to put that money in the hat. You got to put that money in the hat, for their campaigns. For their campaigns, I'm putting hundreds of dollars in the hat. For what? For them to stick it to me? And, you got these people. I was a Democrat for a long time. You heard the saying, I've been a Democrat from the womb to the tomb,
Well, I will say, politics figures into everything, but politics also has to change. The good or bad, the involvement that the Democratic Party had in some of the things that you mentioned, those were situations that happened some years ago. But I think now the big issue for the Democrats is where are they going to pivot to next? They've pivoted way too far to the left for many people, and that it's very hard for a lot of us who are Democrats to say that's my party. It doesn't have the same core competencies and the same focus that it used to have. I mean, on the working man, it's in bed with the Hollywood elite and people who post. I love when people post and they say, well, all the billionaires are in with the Republicans. That's bunk. The wealthiest people in the world, except for Elon Musk and maybe one or two others, largely are in bed with the Democrats. They're not Republicans. They are Democrats. So,
well, I personally think the demise of this country will be from the Democratic Party. I mean, for what, like the guy from this guy was going to be our vice president if the Democrats would have won. Look what's going on in his state, Minnesota.
Oh, you're talking about Tim Walz? I mean, wow, what a mess that guy is. I mean, and by the way, I still remember. I won't say who because he's a friend of mine, but he described Tim Walz as just a really middle American, middle income family guy. I mean, he's anything but. The guy is just a complete buffoon. I think most Democrats would wish that Tim Walz would just shut up already. At least I do.
Yeah. Well, but the damage is already done. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and you look around in your Democratic states and cities, Chicago has lost more businesses than any big city in the nation. I mean, when does it end? When? So, I gave up on the Democratic Party. I'll vote Republican. I wasn't a Democrat, a Republican in the beginning, but I'll be a Republican till the day I die.
Well, I'll tell you what. First and foremost, the most important thing is that people vote. Okay, so the most important thing is that you vote. And how you vote is up to you. That's your choice. I think that the idea of voting straight ticket is going by the wayside, which I've never liked. I never thought the idea of you're just going to pull a straight party ticket doesn't say a lot about your thought process for voting. You have the right to do it, but I don't think it says a lot about you. So, it just again. It's interesting. It's just interesting what's going on right now. I mean, the Republicans seem to be out of tune, with the exception. I will say, with the exception of Trump. Trump seems to get some idea of what's going on in America. I mean, he's pivoted now to talking about inflation and getting down prices, and so he's made that pivot. But most Republicans in Congress don't impress me. They seem to be out of tune. Chuck Grassley is going to be 100 years old if he wins re-election. He's running for re-election for a 6-year term at age 94. I mean, come on already. And so the Republicans seem to be out of tune. The Democrats, I mean, Nancy Pelosi just makes my skin crawl. Tim Walz, Kamala Harris. I mean, this is these are their A-listers, and then you've got Adam Schiff, is one of the biggest liars in modern American history. I mean, he lied over and over that he had seen the evidence that Trump was a Russian plant. He saw the evidence. He knew about it. And what's come out now is basically it's common knowledge that, the Steele dossier was all made up. It was paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign. I mean, it was a made-up document. There's no truth to any of it. I mean, even people like Jake Tapper are finally admitting that they were duped into believing all those falsehoods. And you've got you've got Adam Schiff, who's now a U.S. senator, who sits there and he's on to the next lie. So the Democrats can't believe them. You can't believe the Republicans. The good news is, at a more local level, we still have a tendency to look at the person. So, do people really care if the person's a Democrat or a Republican? I hope they look at the person.
No, what you have to look at is what has been achieved, what we had and what we've lost over the years and years of Democratic corruption and kickbacks. And I mean, how many years has Gary been Democrat?
Well, I've
You
said,
know,
look, I've said this before. I don't mean any ill will toward Frank Mervan, but I don't understand. I recognize the situation that the National Democratic Party gave him a lot of money to hold off the run by Jennifer Ruth Green a few years ago. Okay, I get that, but at this point, with the disarray that the Democrats are in, if I were Frank Mervan, I'd tell the Democrats to pound salt. They're not gonna primary him. They're not gonna be able to knock him out in the primary, and he doesn't need the Democratic National Committee to win re-election. And what he ought to do is wise up and walk away from some of the party entrenchment that he participates in and get back to representing Northwest Indiana. I think that would work a whole lot better. That's just my own take on him. I mean, I don't dislike the guy. I just think that he's gotten too cozy with the National Democratic Party and forgotten that, hey, it's the people in Northwest Indiana that he's got to represent, and those are the people that put him in office, and those are the people that he's got to answer to. And we'll see what happens this coming year.
all right, Tom.
Hey, thanks so much. By the way, as I was talking to that individual, I remembered there's a member of our board of trustees at the museum, Frank Lurison, who is also the chairman of the board of Inland Steel, and I got to know Frank pretty well. And he was chairman of the capital projects oversight committee. And I remember that the Friends of the Park, they got upset about those parking signs for Christmas around the world, and they actually picketed his office because he was on the board, and they were upset. So back in the day, Friends of the Park was a pretty radical organization in Chicago, and how they ever let the Obama Center get built where it is, and that design is beyond me. We'll be right back. Let's take a quick commercial break. It's the Morning Call, Friday morning edition with Tom Dabertin on WJOB 1230 AM and 104.7 FM. All right, we're back, and I know we've had somebody holding, so let's go back to the phone lines, and we'll take that call right now. Good morning. You're on the air. Good morning. You're on the air. Hello.
Yeah, hi, Tom.
There we go. Good morning.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Tom, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Yes, listen to
Well,
the
I
phone.
can barely hear you.
Well, I think you're trying to listen through the radio.
No, the radio's off.
Okay. All right.
But
well, we can
anyway,
hear you fine.
okay. I wanted to call up after that last caller talking about unions. The reason Trump is so hated by the Uniparty in D.C. Ever since the idea of globalism, NAFTA, GATT, ever since everybody from Nixon to Reagan, even and Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, the Bush family, it's been a steady bleed of industrial jobs out of this country.
Yep.
And Trump is the first guy to actually try to buck the system and try to open these factories up, get people back working again in these factories like in the early 70s.
So
that's why he's so hated, and that's why he has to be stopped.
Well, let me just jump in and say that you're right when you mentioned that it's not the Democrats, it's not the Republicans, it's been the Democrats and the Republicans who caused that bleeding.
Exactly, and that's why Trump is so hated. He's not really an old-time country club Republican. He's an outlier. That's why he has to be crushed, and that's why they want to crush him. That's why the resistance movement is what it is.
Well, they don't want that. They don't have that control with the guy. I mean, let's face it. Look, Donald Trump has enough money. He doesn't need to be controlled by anybody. He doesn't have to answer to anyone. And that's the refreshing part about Donald Trump. The bad news is that first off, you got to admit his ego and his mouth. He just needs to learn to keep his mouth shut too sometime.
To me, I always equate that with an airline pilot. If you're sitting in the back of a 757 or whatever, the guy up front, you don't know jack about him. You don't know anything about him. He could be a wife beater. He can be a child molester. You don't know what he is. But as long as he can get you from point A to B, what do you care?
And again, I think Donald Trump would probably pick up a couple percentage points in popularity if he would tone down some of his rhetoric. Okay.
Well, I understand your argument, but to me, the thing I don't understand is the public in general, the average working person in this country, can they not see what he's trying to do? Yeah, granted, he's flawed. We're all flawed. Nobody's perfect. But if they're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater because they don't like because he insults people or he just comes off as a blowhard, what do you care? What do you care? It's your life, your lot in life. What you're going to leave your grandchildren, that's important. Not what you think. Donald Trump's going to be gone one of these days, and then what happens? We go right back to 1998 or something, where everything's going offshore. There's no jobs. If you're lucky, you can get a job at Walmart. Is that what people want?
Well, again, the idea that we were all, remember back in the day, they said we were all going to become like financial experts. We were going to become investment bankers. That was under Clinton. We're going to get rid of these dirty industries and send them overseas and let those people deal with it, and we're all going to become professionals. Well, that doesn't work for everybody.
I've heard that okey-doke argument my whole life. I remember when British Petroleum took over Amoco. The Brits came out here to Whiting and they told all the guys, look at your IRA. Look what you've got here. You guys can retire right now at the age of 48. Sit back fat and happy. The stock market's kicking back 14% a year. You can live off the fat of the land. Why are you working? The guys that bid on that, they were all off the reservation, out of the refinery. And they unloaded probably 15-20% of the working people here. It's the big lie. It's always the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. And the one thing I've learned after all these years is anytime some guy comes up to you and gives you a line like that, you better start checking what's really going on, because you cannot trust people that tell you they've got the golden plan that's going to just take you to Valhalla. It's not going to happen.
Well, remember, you mentioned the merger, the so-called merger between Standard Oil and and BP. It was nothing. It was nothing like a merger. It was a takeover.
Oh, a takeover,
But
right?
remember, they told us. Everybody was told, especially in where we live. We were told, oh, it's a merger. It's a merger. It was no merger. It was like revenge for the Revolutionary War.
Right. One of the stories I heard about that, right after the takeover, the Amoco execs went to London to sit down with the board at BP, and they had all these ideas on what the company is going to do moving forward. And they presented their plan, and right after they presented their plan, the Brits told them, "Well, that's very nice, but we'll do the thinking around here. We do the ordering. You guys jump when we say jump. That's just how that works. We got controlling interest."
You never told me that story, but I've heard that exact same account. I've heard the exact same account that happened. That is something that a lot of us heard, and there's got to be some basis for it. Again, I agree with you. We started this idea in the late 1980s that we were going to start sending jobs overseas. It wasn't under Reagan. I think it might have started under George H.W. Bush, and then it got accelerated by Clinton. And Clinton, of course, had the different trade pacts, and then it was supported by George W. Bush, and then Obama, and it really. I mean, we have jettisoned hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of jobs out of this country to overseas locations, and we were the problem.
Well, I think even Reagan had a hand in some of that. So, like I say, Trump is a whole different kind of cat. This is the first guy that wants to see American factories opening up and see Americans back on the assembly lines.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since I would say. I don't know, going way back past, even before Nixon.
He's done
kicked this thing off when he opened up China.
He's done a very good job when it comes to getting jobs to come back to the United States. But if the guy could just keep his mouth shut and not brag so much,
I do not understand that. I do not understand this. The average Joe getting involved with this resist movement. First off, I think it's run by the Marxist communists. But at the same time, I mean, what do you care? It's your lot in life. Trump's got money. One of these days, you sail off at the sunset. Him and his whole family. Let's say they're set. What about you? What about your family?
And I get that. But at the same time, I don't really want my president to be calling reporters, even though I say plenty about the legacy media, but I'm not going to sit there and call somebody a pig and do some of the things that he does. It's childish, and it's just unnecessary. Hey, we've got some additional callers. We got to move on. Thanks so much. 845-1100. We got additional callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to go back to something you guys were talking about initially as it relates to the redistricting.
Yes.
We already know what happened. It happened. Yeah. And I heard on these airways ad nauseum basically how horrible it is for some of these local Republicans that they're getting all this pressure. I want to say this. I preface my comments. I agree with the overwhelming majority of your callers who had disdain for the people that folded. I want to make that clear because I think one thing that happens specifically with people who are basically to the right of anybody here locally, we wind up fighting amongst each other even when you agree. And people on the left, they may fight initially, but at the end of the day, they're going to close ranks and they're going to support whoever the candidate is. It doesn't matter.
But is that a good thing? Is that a good thing? Because here's my belief. My belief is that I elect somebody, and I don't care if they're a Republican or a Democrat. Once I elect them to office, I want them to do good things for me. I want them to represent me, and I don't really give a damn what the letter is behind their name at that point. I want them to do the things that I feel are appropriate and the reasons why I supported them. And I think too often we say, well, okay, in this case of redistricting, the argument is, well, the Republicans, they bolted from their responsibility to support the party. And to me, it's the other way around. They should make a decision, live by it, explain it, and if you don't like them, vote them out. or drum them out of the party, whatever the case may be. But the party shouldn't be above the candidate. The candidate should be above the party.
I guess we're saying the same thing. My point is really that no matter what happens, these local people, these leftists, are going to go one way only. So that's my point. My point is the people that think like me, the people who had the disdain like a lot of your callers this morning. What happens is they wind up fighting amongst each other, and they never get together for anything. I want to make the point. I hear it on these stairways from Didlo ad nauseum. Basically, his viewpoint is he don't say it, but redistricting is horrible. Then I hear the slew of the NBCs of WJOB. It's horrible. These people need to go do the right thing. Okay, now, in their mind, the Republicans done the right thing. Do you think those people that were preaching that this hope for 2 weeks, you think they're going to come on these airways, the MSNBCs of WJOB, are going to say, I got to give it to those Republicans. They had some honor. They did the right thing. I disagree with it. No, they're not. You know what they're going to do? You know what they're going to do? See, they buck Trump. Trump sucks. Just like MX said.
Absolutely.
That's what they're
do. You're exactly right on that. You're totally right on that.
Of course I'm right.
Because when I was reading the post yesterday, some of the comments that I read was, can you believe that the Republicans actually did something right for a change? And when that was one post, all right, and then you read the comments, what a bunch of boobs, what a bunch of buffoons.
Right.
So you basically said, okay, they've done something well, and then right away you start ripping on them.
That's my main point. That's my main criticism of the MSNBCs of the world. You never say, I disagree with you, Tom, but I understand your point. You made a good point. It's always, you did the right thing, but now let me tell you why you're a rotten, no good son of a blank. That's how it works with these people. And I've been saying for decades on these airways, it's easy if you live in a diehard 100% Democrat area. It's easy to say, I'm running for politics. Yeah, I'm a Democrat. But then you look at their viewpoints. Their viewpoints really don't align with like the caller stated earlier, the working principles of the working man of the party. They're just saying it to get elected. Conversely, and this is what Republicans don't want to realize, there are a lot of Republicans that live in a Republican district, and it's so easy to say, yeah, I'm a Republican too. Yeah, I'm a Republican. But when you break down their viewpoints, they're not Republicans. And then we throw the term rhino out there, and people act poo-poo that term. That's a real term. A rhino is a real term, and we have it in this state. Walt stated earlier, there's a lot of people, this state is really not as conservative as some people think, but if you bring it up, people will say you're against the Republicans. The Democrats will say, well, yeah, that proves you should vote for the leftists. That's the problem. This is why when I bring up Mayor Tom on these airways in a positive viewpoint, the reason I do is because regardless of what you think of him, his viewpoints don't change. A lot of these local people despise him. He stated on these airways, him and Congressman Irvan still aren't on good terms. My question is this. Why is that?
Well,
it's a serious question. Why is that?
Well, again,
why are they not on good terms?
They would have to answer that. Look, I agree with you. You have two guys that ran against each other. There should be no animosity, no issue whatsoever between them at this point. But I think that I hearken back to the. I guess it wasn't technically a State of the Union address, but the address
I know where you're going.
The address that Trump gave this past spring, and what really just has stuck in my mind. And I hear from my friend Doug Ross, who used to be with the Times. Well, he did say something at Porter Town Hall or something that he regretted not standing for that kid. I think Frank Mervan. I've got to tell you, I'd like for him, I know he won't, but I'd like for him to come on with me, and I'd like for him to explain why he didn't stand up that day for that child with cancer, and I'd like for him to apologize. That would go a long way in mending my feelings on Frank Mervan, because when I saw that kid and he needed everybody's support and everybody's love in that room, and those Democrats sat on their hands and wouldn't even clap for the kid,
Right.
something was wrong. And if you remember, I had Tom McDermott on a couple days later, and I said,
I did.
I know that you would have bucked the party and stood up, and I said, you'd probably be on the table. And he goes, you're damn right I'd be on the table. I would have been screaming and clapping louder than anybody in the room, and I believe that. I think that there's a time and a place for party politics. There's a lot of stuff that's dished out by the Republicans in Congress just as much as the Democrats, okay?
Right.
They're certainly both have done their part to create the mess we're in. However, there's a time and a place, and now is the time and now is the place to quit just doing the bidding of the party. That's the problem that we have everywhere, and I'm not just blaming.
But
Frank
you got to
Mervan,
look
it's
at the
everybody.
voting record, Tom, because I constantly hear people on these airways say how wonderful our congressman is. But do you look at the voting record? I'll give you the answer. No. All I hear is how wonderful he is. That's all I hear.
Well, he's a nice guy. He is a nice guy. He's a very nice guy.
But that's irrelevant.
That's irrelevant.
That's my point.
I don't really care I don't care if we have a nice guy as a congressman. I just want somebody that represents us. And I'm not in favor of men and women's sports. I'm not in favor of some of the things that he's voted for. And those are issues, and I'd like for him to address them sometime. But again, I think I've kind of beat that one to death, and so I'm kind of done with it. And we've got to move on because we've got a break.
But I'll get off after this. But I would love to hear from the MSNBCs of the world when you were pushing for 2 weeks what the Republicans should do right. I would like to hear, since you were so in favor of not redistricting, saying how wonderful it is that the Republicans came and they're done an honorable thing. Have a good day.
No, you got a great point on that. Great point. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. It's the Morning Call Friday edition on WJOB, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. We'll be right back.
righty, welcome back. It is I, Joe, and I am starting off this segment because I want to talk about something real quick. So, yesterday was actually my last day of college, my last class. I graduate. Well, technically, I don't know. We don't have a walk over the winter, and I think I technically missed the day of getting my diploma. I think it was like 2 days ago, and I just didn't go.
You're done. You're done.
Yeah, I'm done. I mean, what?
Congratulations.
A piece of paper is not going to change that. You
Right.
know, I'll go get it on my own time. I probably won't even walk in the spring, to be honest with you. Just A, because I don't know where I'll be at that point in my life, and then B, I think the only reason I would want to is so that my dad and my mom could see me walk. But I
Did walk as an undergrad, did walk as a graduate.
Yeah, I don't see any huge point in that. But with that being said, I wanted to share something with everybody. It is my final project that I finished, is the one that I finished yesterday. It is a movie poster for my visual communication design class. And I just love it so much. It took me like a couple weeks to make, and as you guys know, Adriana's cousin Nikki is, one of my best friends. We went to college together, and I'll just let you guys. I put him in the poster, and I really wanted to show everybody possible because I think it's hilarious. So here it is for you guys. It is a Stranger Things poster, movie poster, and that is his head on a 12-year-old girl's body. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure that I'm going to comment on that. I'll leave that. I'll leave that one. It's a good job, but I'm not going to comment on that. Yeah. Now that I know it's on a guy's head on a 12-year-old girl's body, now I'm not going to comment on that.
If you know what the show is, right? It is a girl with telepathic powers who shaves her head in the first season. When she's like 12 in the season. I think that's how old she is when the show starts. But she shaves her head, and she gets these telepathic powers. And Nikki shaved his head for we did a costume together for Halloween. And the dude had a shaved head, so he decided to shave his head. And when I got the idea for this movie poster, when I was given the assignment, I just really wanted to incorporate Nikki because he's a good sport. He loves a good joke, and I think the fact that he shaved his head just looks so funny. So, yeah, I just wanted to show everybody that. Whether you guys like it or not is not really it doesn't matter to me because I love it. So
there you go.
But yeah, with that being said, I'll let you guys go back to the callers.
We've got some callers, right?
Yeah, we got 3.
All right, full lines. Okay, we'll go right through them. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Tom, have you heard what this NATO Secretary General has been spewing about scaling up for a full war with Russia? Have you ever heard this idiot?
I think he's a complete buffoon. I think he's a total idiot. The idea, look, and I want to drive this home right now, and I have some friends that continue to post stuff on Facebook about that we need to support Ukraine no matter what. When you say no matter what, are you saying that you're willing to engage in a nuclear exchange with Russia over Ukraine? What kind of stupidity is
people?
It's dumbfounding, isn't it? I mean, these people who have this idea, first of all, as Mon and I pointed out the other day, nuclear war is not winnable, okay? It is not winnable. It will I just saw a post this morning. At ground zero, for a 1 megaton weapon, which is the common power of a nuclear weapon that the U.S. and the Soviets or the Russians actually have ready to launch. 1 megaton, the temperature at the center of ground zero is 100 million degrees. And people have this idea like we're going to survive that? Are you crazy? I don't get it. I don't understand it.
I think I read that that Thomas Massey and that representative Luna, the real good looking one.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
yeah. Well, she was a swimsuit model. So
another product of Florida.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I actually I don't know if you saw, but 2 weeks ago she said that somebody made some comment about her appearance in Congress, some Democratic congresswoman, and she said, just to prove my point that I'm still in good shape, she she put on her red, white, and blue one piece and posed, and I got a lot of attention. And then my wife said, "What are you looking at?" Anyway.
But anyway, yeah. So, anyways, those two, I think they're going to put a bill together to try to get us out of NATO. And you know what? They need to do it tomorrow. Screw NATO. You know what? And as far as I'm concerned, I think Macron, Starmer, every time Trump gets something close to a peace deal with this stupid war, I'm pretty confident those two are throwing a wrench in it.
They certainly aren't helping.
War.
They are not helping things, and they are undermining things. And again, this craziness that somehow we're going to go to war with Russia with 6,000 nuclear weapons, you've got to be off your rocker. Because
especially Starmer and Macron. Russia would wipe them two little countries off the map so fast. They kill everybody in about 2 seconds. What are you even thinking?
The flight time of a nuclear missile, according to that book that I just read by Annie Jacobson, is less than 6 minutes into France and Great Britain. They get pounded before we do.
You know, these people are off the rocker. I say, get us out of NATO, get us out, and you want to have your war, go have it. Go fight with Russia, you morons.
Absolutely. Hey, I agree with you on that one. Thank you so much for the call.
Yep.
845-1100, we've got some additional callers. Let's go to the next call. Good morning, you're on the air.
Hold on, real quick. We have a Josh from in the YouTube comment section from Australia. I just thought that was pretty cool. You know, you're pulling in some international viewers now.
Well, we pull in international viewers, and good morning to all of our fans in Australia then.
Yeah,
good morning.
Right. All right.
That's awesome.
To the phone lines, good morning, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning. How are you guys today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, Tom, is your beef more with Frank, the fact that he didn't come on the air with you after he told you he would?
No,
well, you keep dwelling. No. The reason I asked this question, Tom, listen, hear me out.
All right.
Because you keep dwelling on the fact that about the child with cancer. He's been on your same airways, maybe not with you, and spoke about that whole situation and the male and female sports thing.
Okay, well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. On the female sports thing, he has not voted. He's not voted once in to change his view. As far as
I didn't say he voted. I said he spoke about it.
Okay, as far as the cancer issue, the reason why that came up was because the gentleman was talking about Tom McDermott, and he was talking about the conversation that we had with Tom McDermott about the kid with cancer. That's how that.
No, you bring it up all the time. Every time you bring Frank's name up, that comes out of your mouth.
Well,
how about you take a survey and ask all your callers that call in if you bring that up all the time?
Okay. So I mean,
it sounds like you're just upset that Frank was your buddy, and now he didn't come on the air with you because probably the people
I've actually told a few people not to bring it up anymore, haven't I? I've said that. I really, again, I don't have an issue with Frank Mervan whether he ever comes on my program or not. I don't have an issue with that. My point is and my point today especially is that all these people who said, well, we're going to redistrict him out of existence, that if you want to get rid of him, then you're going to have to run somebody against him because redistricting wasn't the method. And I never supported redistricting. I have steadfastly said I did not support redistricting. So I've said that repeatedly. And my point is that these people are calling in and saying, well, we should have redistricted. My point is, well, it's not going to happen. So if the people who said we're going to redistrict, we're going to get rid of Mervan, my point is that, well, that didn't happen. So if you don't like Mervan, then you're going to have to get rid of him some other way. That's what I'm saying, and that's a fact.
They've tried all those ways, haven't they?
Okay, well, my point is once again, if you are a caller, and we have plenty of them who say they don't like Frank Mervan, right? So
mainly the ones that call when you're on the air.
Okay, well,
and the ones that you have Christmas parties with and all that little stuff.
Well, I mean, you know what?
Come on, those are your 10, 15 calls each day.
Okay.
The same group, same people that message.
Well,
on the message.
It's again, I don't know where you're going with this. I generally don't.
You're just upset with the fact that he didn't come on the air with you.
Okay, I'm not. But thanks for calling. 845-1100. I mean, look, you're bringing up nonsense, and I'm not going to waste my time on that. We have another caller. Or you want me to take a break? Okay, we have 3 callers, but we're going to take we'll take one more caller, and then we'll take the break because they'll put us at 20 minutes. All right, we'll take the next call. Good morning, you're on the air.
Oh, good morning. This works out good because I don't have a whole lot of time to stay on the phone. I'm at work. I just wanted to say that as far as the redistricting goes, I've thrown a lot of negative comments about our representatives downstate because they don't seem to really listen to what the people of Indiana want.
But I don't think the people of Indiana wanted redistricting. I don't think they did.
And hear me out. I'm talking about other issues like SB1 and
that I agree. They didn't listen on that one. That's right.
Necessity for having a gun permit and everything else. They've really. I've not been in agreement with them on the majority, but I want to give everybody credit from the Republican Party that stood up against the bullies and instead of with their party affiliation.
And I got to apologize, but you keep on fading in and fading out, and we're getting about every third word.
How's this? Is this any better?
That's much better. Go ahead.
Okay. What I wanted to say is I wanted to give credit to the members of the Republican Party who did not cave to the bullying that they were receiving, whether it was swatting, whether it was emails, whether it was anything else. I want to give them, they take the abuse. Let's give them the credit where it's due to. They voted with their conscience and they stood up to bullying and they voted the way the people wanted.
Well, again, I agree with you. I think they voted the will of the people. I did not see. Look, I know there's a lot of people that are upset this morning, and they were for redistricting and said, it's a sellout and all that stuff. But, I think the average person wasn't supporting it. I didn't support it. Again, and regardless of that last caller, my point is that if you don't like your current congressman, then get somebody to run against them that you like better, that can win. But redistricting to me was not the answer for this. It wasn't the way to go. Just the fact that Illinois is a mess with their gerrymandering, or California, does that mean that we should act as bad as they are? I mean, I don't think so.
Well, that's the thing. Even with the state of California, after Texas did what they did, the state of California went to the people and said, do you want us to redistrict or not? Okay? They went to the people. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what our elected officials are supposed to do. Okay? And when it goes to first of all,
we're losing you again. We're losing you again. I'm sorry.
I think you're just covering your mic, sir. So if you're on the phone, just make sure that you're holding it regularly and you're not covering your microphone.
How about this? Is this better?
Yeah, you don't have one of those waterproof cases on your phone, do you? No, because those waterproof cases have a little diaphragm that moves back and forth, and I think that might be that also sometimes causes problems. Go ahead.
Actually, I was using an earbud, so maybe that's the problem.
Okay, yeah. Now you sound fine, but we couldn't hear you before. About half of what you said got lost.
So when you look at the whole redistricting, and you had one of the fellows talking about deflating a football and everything else. Well, you know what? When the football's deflated, it's deflated for both teams. So that analogy never really washed with me. And the last 2 census, the majority party in the state of Indiana was the Republicans.
Yeah.
So
they created the very districts that they were saying were unfair. They're the ones that created them. So how are they unfair? Right.
Well, exactly. And then you look at the fact that, so to get the numbers that they wanted, they had to stretch the district 5 counties out. I mean, come on. The people in Pulaski County, they don't have the same issues that we do in Lake County. It's ridiculous. So I'm glad that the necessary people, stood on their morals, and they went ahead and voted with their conscience, and it didn't cave to the guy in the front office and carrying the party water.
Again, I certainly understand why Donald Trump was pushing for these redistrictings, and he wants to keep control of Congress, and it's very hard in a second term as president to keep control of Congress. I get that. But as you pointed out, when people say, well, the districts in Indiana are currently unfair, well, who created them? Who created not only the districts in this last go round, but the go round before that, and the go round before that, and the go round before that? The Republicans have controlled the legislature for many years. A good friend of mine, Linda Lawson, was the minority leader in the House back in the day, and she said to me, we don't have any say on districting. It's all controlled by the Republicans, and it has been for years. It's been that way for years. So you want to complain about the districts in Indiana? Well, you got to blame the Republicans because they're the ones that created them, not the Democrats.
Well, and like I said, there's plenty of things that I think that the party has done to screw things up. But let's give them the credit where it's due. And in this case, kudos to Dan Durnall and Niemeyer and everyone else because they stood up for what was right.
There you go. Hey, thanks for the call. We've got more callers. We're going to take a quick break because we need to. As soon as we're done, we'll come right back to you. So just stay on hold. We'll be right back. It's the Morning Call Friday edition on WJLB 1230 AM 104.7 FM. All right, we're back, and we've got callers holding, so let's go right to the callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I already talked to you. I want to talk to Joe a second, okay?
Okay.
All right. Hey, can you hear me, Joe?
Go ahead. He can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, you graduated. You're done then, right?
I am.
Okay, well, when I was young and me and my sister lived at home, she went to school to be a LPN, and I got beat up from my sister because we were at home. We went to her graduation, and she's holding up. My mom and dad's taking pictures and holding up the diploma thing, and it says LPN. And me, I'm a little smarty cake. I mouth off too much. And I just kind of said it right loud when she was taking a picture. I says, does that mean you learned practically nothing? Oh, she got mad. So then, later on down the years, which we got older, then my sister went to school to finish and get an RN, and she didn't invite me to a party or for a graduation thing because she thought I was going to be a smarty pants again. So she calls me, I got my diploma for RN. I says, really? Does that mean now you're a registered nut?
You know what's interesting, Mike?
She hung up on me.
So real fast, because we got other callers, Mike, but you brought up LPNs. LPNs, I just checked, and I didn't realize that it still is a degree that's issued. I know that a lot of universities have really pushed towards RNs and BSNs, but I didn't realize it still existed.
One last thing for Joe. I'm going to let you go so you can get your other callers. Joe, when you lived at home with your parents, and say you're like about 12, 13, 14 years old, what was your favorite Christmas movie show during Christmas?
I was a big Home Alone guy.
There you go. That's a great one. All right, thanks, Mike.
All right, I'm going to let you guys go. Everybody have a wonderful day.
All right. Good morning. You're on the air.
Tom, I've never been to a Christmas party with you.
Well, look, that guy, I actually recognize his voice, so I know who he is, and he can say whatever he wants. But look, I've said this 1,000 times on this radio. I'm a registered Democrat. I've supported an awful lot of Democrats. I've run a lot of campaigns, in fact, for Democrats. But the people that I've been associated with are individuals. I supported them based on their stand. And he can say whatever he darn well wants, but I think I've been pretty fair when it comes to Frank Mervan, and I don't care if he ever comes on my program or not. I don't. I know him a lot better than that guy ever will. I know Frank.
Let me address what he had to say. When you can't call an illegal, there's a problem. When you can't say that men shouldn't be competing against women, there's a problem. When you fall in line with your handlers and say these are fishing boats, instead of they're bringing fentanyl and everything else into our country and killing our kids, there's a problem. When you don't have the stones to come on Dabertin's show and take calls that aren't scripted, there's a problem. I don't know what else you could say about Frank Mervan and him allegedly being a, quote, man, end of quote, that I want representing me. Pound sand.
Well, look, I also notice a pattern here, okay? I've noticed a pattern that the individuals, we've gotten a couple of calls when I bring up Mervan, there's a pattern. And I know exactly where the pattern's coming from, and I know who's behind it. And it's just a political move that they're going to have people, they've got their supporters, okay, if Dabertin says anything, you call in, you give him a hard time, you're going to throw him off. He's not going to throw me off at all. And again, I've said repeatedly, my whole issue with Frank Mervan really isn't about the kid with cancer, although I think that was a tragedy. I do have issue with the men and women's sports. That's an issue. The bigger issue that I have is that, as you've said, he marches to the orders of the National Democratic Party, and I don't understand why. Because at this point, the fact that they gave him millions of dollars, if I were Frank Mervan, I'd say, thank you very much, and now I'm going to go do what I want to do. They can't. The Democratic Party's not going to push him out. So why does he care about Hakeem Jeffries or Nancy Pelosi or anybody else tells him what to do? Be your own man and represent your district and represent their beliefs, because the vast majority of people in the 1st District in Indiana do not support men in women's sports. I guarantee that, okay? I absolutely guarantee that the vast majority don't support that. So those are issues that he should be representing the people on, not his party. That's all.
To that caller, when the drugs or the crime hits somebody you love, I don't want to hear one teardrop hit the floor, because you let it go too long and you were afraid to stand for what was right and call Frank Mervan out on having any lack of character whatsoever.
Well, by the way, for what it's worth, because you usually call and you for many months, if you remember, it was kind of a joke. You'd call and you'd say, Tom, when's Frank Mervan coming on, right? And I actually said to you one day, okay, let's drop that already. I said that to you. This guy, I don't, again, I really don't care. He's welcome to call. Yes.
Frank Mervan had every opportunity to come on your show and people that disagree with him, he had every opportunity to call them out, like me, and prove to me that I'm wrong, he's correct in what he's doing for our area, for our state, and for the United States. And he failed to do it.
Well, again, everybody's got to make their own opinion up on the guy, and I'm just here to listen to people's opinions, and I appreciate the call.
Here's my last point. He's worthless, and MX was absolutely correct when he wouldn't shake his hand.
Well, and
Kudos to
MX is coming in next week, and we are going to have the Christmas show. Okay, not the Christmas party, but the Christmas show. And MX really puts that together. He spends a lot of time on it. And to be very honest with you, if that caller thinks we're going to spend the whole time talking about Frank Mervan, he's sorely going to be sorely disappointed, because we're not. We're going to talk about everybody else. We're going to talk about some good things too, because if you remember, just a few months ago, Trucker Mike, who called in this morning just before you, had a medical incident. So it was a really high point of the year when Dave Gurman and MX went to his aid. So two guys who don't always agree politically, but they did the right thing. So we're going to celebrate all of that next week.
Hey, Frank sits in that big cushy position in Washington with that nice pay and those political allies, so on and so forth. But Frank's never really put his ass on the line in defense of this country.
Well, again, he hasn't served in the military, if you're talking about that, and I haven't either. But I think I will agree that I think Frank Mervan has terrific respect for the military. I'll give him that.
Silver spoon, daddy's coattails.
All right. Hey, thanks for the call. 845-1100. Got some more callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Tom.
Good morning.
I always find it ironic when there's a loss in the Republican Party, be it from Donald Trump or even in the state, that it comes back to Frank Mervan. And the three people that hate him, that's not going to make or break this election, the next election.
Again, my whole point this morning, Dave, is if you don't like him, then run somebody against him, right?
Then don't vote for him. Write a big check. Who are you going to run against him? That's what I'd like to know. You're going to run two people that have already lost to him?
Well, I think this Barb Regnitz. I don't think Regnitz has run against him. I think she's what I hear is she's a possible candidate, or she's an announced candidate. Look, again, you know what? At the end of the day, our lives in Northwest Indiana are not dependent on whoever our congressman is anyway. All right, there's so many other things. There's a lot of good things going on. For example, I just saw that, and maybe you can elaborate on it, but there's actually, I saw that there's a Popeyes being built in Gary.
There is. There was the one that was taken down due to fire, and they're going to, and Miller, it's the little battles in Gary. It's the little things mean a lot in Gary, because they still have a long, long way to go. They're still having a difficult time. But, when a Duncan goes up in the 1st District, that's a big deal. For Munster or Highland or any place else, it's just another one. But, for depressed Gary, it's a big deal.
And you know what? And I've said this for years. I've said this for the 20-some years I've been on the radio, that people who we have to be realistic about Gary. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of shortcomings. But the idea that, we're just going to forget about Gary. Well, you can't forget about Gary, because if you forget about Gary, it's a major part of this county. And for the county to be successful, Gary needs to be successful as well. I have to say there's some other things.
That was always the line, if you win a county position, there goes Gary. Now Hammond has a larger population than Gary now.
Right.
Gary is still losing 900 to 1,000 people a year to death. They're not moving away, right? It's the seniors passing away, and there's no one replacing them.
Right.
But, I was just recently off the intersection of 22nd and Washington. There's 9 brand new homes that were built.
So that's the kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff, though, that isn't getting out there. That really needs to be celebrated more. Like I brought up the Popeyes, and listeners are saying, "Oh, Popeyes, that's no economic development."
Another fast food, right?
But you know what? It's something. It's something better than what was there. And again, when people drive through on 8094 and the toll road, they've got to go through Gary. So if you can get rid of some of the dilapidated buildings and you can replace them with new buildings and new development, it's a positive for the whole community. It's a positive for the whole Northwest Indiana area.
I'm hoping that the Notre Dame plan comes to fruition. That's the downtown area.
Yeah, I've only
been there. Yeah, I've only been there 8 years, but for the last 30 years, Gary, because they've been in such a depressed state and, desperate, right? For lack of a better word, they've been promised so much stuff and it just never comes to fruition. And I'm hoping, when you start talking about a name like Notre Dame and their team, it kind of makes you sit up in your seat a little bit and be cautiously optimistic.
Let me just interrupt you. Here's my the only shortcoming I have with that. I agree with you, and it was nice to see that they promoted their attempt at impacting Gary. But I also remember that Mayor Daley and the University of Chicago, after Daley stepped down as mayor, he did a similar study. He did a study on the neighborhoods of Gary. And the problem with studies, as you and I both know, studies often get left on the table and nobody reads them and nobody follows through with them. I agree with you. The Notre Dame study is really quite fascinating and a real positive for Gary as long as it gets implemented.
Exactly. In Daley, right, Meridian Corporation, his corporation, you remember what he said about Gary. Level the whole city.
Yeah, well, again, Richard Daley, when he became a consultant, I think he was in it for the money and nothing else. But hey, I'm glad that you called. I'm glad that you called. And by the way, there's one huge roadblock we both know before I let you go that's going to stand in the way of that study, and it's called SB1.
You and I it seems like we're the only ones that's talking about it.
Nobody's talking about it. I mean,
I know it's a big deal.
It's a huge deal, and it's going to be the unraveling of everything.
It really is. Can I hit the Republicans in the state here real fast? Congratulations to them. I'm not always one for giving somebody a high five when they were supposed to do the right thing, right? But I look at Texas and Indiana saying no and Texas saying yes to 5 seats. This is all for one temporary lame duck president in Washington. And my personal opinion, he needs to stack the deck and have his side be the dominant side with the numbers, because Donald J. Trump has no diplomacy. He has no capability of reaching across the aisle, nor does he want to reach across the aisle.
But at the same time,
he has to stack the deck.
But at the same time, the Democrats have done everything they can to undermine the guy, and he did try to reach across the aisle in his first term, and the Democrats stymied him. So, look, you know what? I'll leave it with this. We'll move to the next caller. There's problems on both sides of the aisle,
no doubt.
right? There's where the problems are.
I'll finish with it. So we can seize a tanker with 1 million barrels of oil, and we can't seize 17 30-foot fast-moving fishing boats. And it's not fentanyl. You know this, Tom. It's not fentanyl. It's cocaine, which is equally bad. Yeah. Fentanyl comes from China, not Venezuela. So I'm fearful of, Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. We don't need a president to invade Venezuela for the oil. That's the last thing we need.
I agree with you, although I don't think we're going to invade him. I think it's basically it's all an intimidation game. Maduro is just a puppet, so we'll see where it goes. Hey, thanks for the call.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
845-1100. We've got a couple more callers. One more caller. This will be the last caller for the day. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Tom, how's it going? It's Robert from Robertsville.
Hey, how are you?
Your previous caller is really showing his TDS there, Trump derangement syndrome. I've heard him a few times on the radio. And it's very interesting, We know he's a hard Democrat, but he's applauding Republican votes. It's the only time Democrats will applaud a Republican vote of any kind or support a Republican is when they do something that they know intentionally is affecting the party. The redistricting needed to happen. It just needed to happen. We needed to have some conservative representation in Lake County. We haven't had it in a long time.
Can I just ask you, do you really think that that's the right way to go? I mean, if I look at the numbers, okay, you've got Lake County, Porter County, and half of LaPorte County. And Porter County, for years, the population was overshadowed by Lake County. Lake County still has a bigger population.
Let's be real here.
Yeah.
Let's be real here. The census was wrong. They admitted it was wrong. This was an opportunity to be on the national level to really represent conservatives, to show the people. The state of Indiana is a conservative state with a small pocket of areas that are very blue. So, of course, the Democrats are applauding I'm going to call them the way they are, rhinos. They are Republican in name only. They vote like Democrats. The Democrats that represent us here in Lake County that voted against this, they vote like Democrats. So, of course, the Democrats are applauding this. We need candidates to go out there that have conservative, strong conservative values and run against these guys. We need to show the Republican people, because the people wanted this. The ones that didn't want this are calling the phones right now, like the previous caller, who is a Democrat, who will never vote for a Republican candidate.
I agree.
But he's applauding this Republican decision, who has TDS and who doesn't care. He just cares about Lake County, cares about being blue. He cares about drugs coming into. He's complaining that the president of the United States is fighting a drug war. Listen to him. He's complaining about that.
Look, I will agree with some of what you said, but I also think that when I look at the numbers, I look at for example, when Jennifer Ruth Green ran 4 years ago, okay, and she came very close, and the number of conservative voters in Lake County, I think, has increased dramatically in the past 4 years. I look at the numbers. I look at the numbers from the last election, and I see.
Well, Tom, can we run a Republican in Illinois? Can we get Republican representation in Chicago? There's people that are conservative in Chicago. Can we get that?
No, because
Illinois
it's been so
not completely
gerrymandered.
Gerrymander Illinois.
Right.
So when Democrats have the chance to take over, they do it. We had a small opportunity to show real Republican and fight fire with fire, pretty much, and we didn't, because the Democrats infiltrated the Republican Party. They convinced the rhinos to vote against this, and they did. We were on the national stage to really show our values. We knew it wasn't going to happen, but the Democrats are complaining about the Republicans making a change. They gerrymandered every one of their states, so no Republican can get elected. And they were crying about this.
You make a great point. What I would have liked to have seen, Democrat and Republican leaders stand up and say, enough of this nonsense nationwide. Let's stop it. Let's go back and let's take a look at the states.
Well, the Republicans would do that, Tom, and we do. The ones that never play nice are Democrats. You know that. It's very public now. I mean, come on.
Look, again, I'm a Democrat, but I have to agree with you on that one. I have to agree with you.
Right?
They are the ones that started. They're the ones that started it. You're absolutely right.
And all we tried to do is play a little fire with fire, and they were crying, well, this is what's going to happen. 2026, a lot of Republicans are going to be they're going to be primary, and there's going to be a push. And whoever's going to run against Frank Mervan is going to have so much support now. They lit a fire. They probably should have allowed the gerrymandering, and really that would have really upset the Democrats, and they really come out. But what they did now is they really lit a fire under the strong conservative people, me included. Being a Latino, I am coming out, and I'm going to talk to as many Latinos as I can to make sure that Frank Mervan does not get reelected.
Well, Robert, you know what? I think that your prediction may be something that comes to fruition. I think that this is going to ignite a lot of individuals and to go out and campaign and be very active. I think you're right about that. And so sometimes what you wished for, you don't get. And
they should have wished for the gerrymandering to pass. They should have wished for the gerrymandering to pass. Because what they did now is, just similar to what happened with Turning Point. When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, the left applauded.
Absolutely, that was the worst thing. It was the worst thing that could have ever happened for liberals.
It ignited a fire. We now have some chapters popping up. We have the youth here in Hammond, Indiana, at Purdue University. We have strong conservative young individuals coming out. They just lit another fire. So I applaud the Democrats for this. So thank you for this.
Hey,
You're
thank
actually
you,
motivating
thank you for
us.
calling. Thank you for calling. You're the last caller of the day. Thanks so much. Hey, look, I want to thank everybody that called in. And whether you agree with me or not, it's beside the point. What I try and do when I'm on the radio is give you a chance to talk. And I'll ask you questions and give you my views. But It's really great to be here. It's been a lot of fun this morning. It's been a busy morning. Joe, you agree to that? It's always a busy morning when I sit in. So regardless of the one individual, we get an awful lot of viewers and an awful lot of listeners, and we can tell the numbers. So regardless of what that guy said. But it's great to be here. You know what? Remember, it's a Christmas season, and all this upheaval over redistricting and everything else, try and practice the idea of being kind and considerate and being friendly toward others, at least for the next couple of weeks. Let's do our part and show some Christmas spirit and Christmas cheer. I'll be back here next Wednesday morning beginning at 6 a.m., and we'll have the big Christmas show. MX has his annual rite of passage. He's got all kinds of gifts and memes and everything else. So we'll go through all of that Wednesday morning. It'll be entertaining, and I can assure you it's going to gig anybody and everybody. And Joe, you never know, you might be part of it as well. But thank you so much for sitting in this morning with me, Joe, and everybody. Have a great day. Keep it tuned right here all day, all week to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, and next. Coming up is the award-winning Veterans Views right here on WJOB. Have a great day, folks.